Chapter 1540. What kind of sword chi is this? It's too terrifying. This person must be a peerless swordsman. Everyone was shocked. The first prince, third prince, Princess Kai Dai, and their subordinates all wore solemn expressions. This was because they discovered that the other party's strength was beyond their expectations. You're courting death! Break for me! The fire demon was furious because that sharp sword chi made him feel extremely uncomfortable. It even made him feel a sense of trepidation. He had only felt this feeling from Jian Tian and Han Li. But he didn't expect that a mysterious martial artist would be able to make him feel this way. He couldn't accept this. This uneasy feeling made the fire demon fly into a rage. In the next moment, he stretched out his palm and a resplendent light blossomed. Suddenly, a huge red palm stretched out like a cloud of fire, covering the sky and earth, completely enveloping all of the sword chi. His goal was very simple. He wanted to refine all of the sword chi. Boom! The fiery red palm fell, bringing with it a terrifying temperature. He, the fire demon, was famous for his pair of fire demon palms. His palms were fused with extremely terrifying flames. These flames were even more terrifying than the legendary blue sky flames. Thus, it could be said that there was nothing that could remain intact under his palm. He believed that the other party's sword chi was the same. At this moment, seeing the fire demon use the fire demon palms, everyone was shocked. The martial artists on the third prince's side also nodded continuously. Even some of the older generation figures in the villa were extremely shocked. Many of the older generation experts nodded one after another. They were very optimistic about this fire demon because with his talent and strength, his future achievements would definitely be limitless. Boom! The terrifying fire demon palm stretched out, bringing with it endless heat waves, directly evaporating the lake below. Not only that, but several cracks were also blasted open in the void. The entire sky violently boiled like a huge boiler, causing everyone's faces to turn pale. Some of the weaker ones were even directly sent flying by the aftermath of this palm. But fortunately, none of the people present were weak. After the initial cry of alarm, they quickly adjusted their defenses and retreated to a safe distance. In the next moment, they looked forward and cried out in alarm. Because in the sky, the two streaks of sword chi were rapidly trembling, emitting a resplendent light. Then, they turned into countless streaks of sword light that soared into the sky. That strong aura was too sharp. Even in this heatwave environment, everyone still felt a chill. Humph! Die! The fire demon snorted coldly as all the power in his body surged into his palm again. Suddenly, the fire demon palm released an incomparably bright light. In an instant, it enveloped all the sword lights. Boom! Boom! The terrifying sound of the collision rang out like a clap of thunder, resounding through the world. 10,000 swords chimed in unison, as if they wanted to destroy everything. However, in the end, all of the sword chi was still enveloped by the flame demon palm. Not only that, but the entire void was distorted by the heat, and everyone's spiritual energy was evaporated. Ha ha! Brat, your sword chi is gone. Hurry up and come out! Fire demon raised his head and laughed. As for the warriors under the third prince, they all cheered. Great! The fire demon is so strong! That was natural. The fire demon was ranked third. Humph! That brat is so arrogant. He actually dared to look down on the fire demon. Now he knows how powerful I am. What mysterious expert! I think he's just SOSO. Humph, why isn't there any movement? I guess that brat is definitely scared out of his wits and doesn't dare to come out at all. The third prince's side laughed wildly, while the others were exclaiming. On Princess Katie's side, the atmosphere was solemn. Sure enough, he still lost. No choice. The fire demon is too strong. Several warriors shook their heads and sighed. Princess Katie's expression was also solemn. Are we really going to lose? She had already discovered that the mysterious expert's strength was even more terrifying than the number one expert on her side. But even so, she still could not defeat the fire demon. Was she really unable to enter the first tier? Ha ha ha, Princess Kaidai, don't look forward to it anymore. Do you have anyone else who wants to join the battle? If not, I'm going to challenge someone else. In the sky, the fire demon's expression was wild. He did not put Princess Katie's side in his eyes at all. The warriors under the third prince also laughed. Fire demon, don't waste time. Our opponent is the first prince. That's right. The third prince nodded. He only had one enemy, and that was the first prince. He did not put the others, including Princess Kaidai, in his eyes. All right. The fire demon nodded and prepared to challenge the first prince. But at this moment he frowned. On the third prince's side, the smile on his face instantly froze. The surrounding martial artists were all stunned. This was because a sharp sword light lit up in the sky, shaking the void as it slashed out from the terrifying fire demon's palm. In the sky, the sea of fire surged and waves of air rolled. A huge crack appeared, which was cut open by the sword chi. Not only that, but there were countless cracks in the crack. The entire sky seemed to have been cut into pieces. What? It rushed out. Everyone was shocked and could not believe it. The third prince's side was even more shocked. This was because a shocking sword light, like a bright divine rainbow, lit up the sky and slashed out from the fire demon's palm. Not only that, the sword light quickly slashed towards the fire demon. The fire demon's expression changed immediately. He did not expect that the opponent's sword chi was still there, and it was so sharp. Could it be that his fire demon's palm had lost its effect? Damn it, how is this possible? The fire demon's expression was very ugly, but now was not the time for him to think too much. This was because the sword chi was still slashing towards him. Clang! 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 Bang! Even though the fire demon was extremely powerful, and his fire demon's palm was unparalleled in the world, he still could not fight back against the sword chi. His fire demon's palm was extremely red, and when it collided with the sword chi, there was a sonorous vibration. The entire void trembled rapidly as if it was a painting that kept rolling. This scene stunned everyone. They had never imagined that the fire demon would actually fail. One should know that the fire demon's palm was extremely terrifying and could melt everything. But now, it could not shatter the bright sword chi. Buzz! Suddenly, thousands of sword lights flashed in the sky and quickly merged to form a shocking azure dragon that roared in all directions. Finally, a dragon-shaped sword chi spiraled in the void and rushed forward. Oh no! The fire demon's expression changed drastically when he sensed the sword chi. This was because the dragon-shaped sword chi was so terrifying that it made him shudder. He knew that this sword chi could still pose a threat to him. Therefore, he did not hesitate and quickly retreated. However, the dragon-shaped sword chi was too terrifying. It was dazzling and carried a monstrous, murderous aura. It quickly descended and enveloped him. Chapter 1541. The dragon-shaped sword chi was too terrifying. It was dazzling and carried a monstrous killing intent. It quickly descended and enveloped him. Get lost! Fire Fiend roared angrily. A red domain appeared beside him and quickly formed a huge shield. At the same time, he waved his hands, and the Fire Fiend palms shot into the sky. The palms were bright red and had mysterious patterns on them. They emitted a monstrous aura and slammed into the dragon-shaped sword chi. In the next moment, a shocking explosion occurred, causing the entire sky to tremble. Endless waves of air surged, drowning everything. However, the dragon-shaped sword chi was too powerful. It sent the Firefiend palms flying and cut through Firefiend's domain. It slashed Firefiend's body. Bang! Firefiend was sent flying and crashed into the ground, forming a terrifying crater. Barf! He struggled to get up and spat out a mouthful of blood. His hair was disheveled, and he was in a sorry state. There was a deep sword wound on his body that had almost cut him in half. Looking at this scene, everyone was stunned. They simply could not believe that Fire Demon had actually been defeated and even suffered such heavy injuries. That was Fire Fiend. He was ranked third among the third prince's subordinates. Dong Qianshan and Blood Monk could not compare to him at all. It could be said that he was a true powerhouse. But now, he had been defeated. He had been struck by the sword chi. Until now, they had not even seen the other party's figure. At that moment, everyone was stunned. Among them, the third prince's face was terrifyingly gloomy. He had never thought that the outcome would be like this. The first prince's eyes also flickered. That was because a mysterious powerhouse had appeared out of thin air. It was very disadvantageous to them. However, the first prince was happy to see the third prince's ferocious expression. On the other side, Princess Kai-Dai heaved a sigh of relief. To be honest, that scene had indeed exceeded her expectations. She had never thought that the other party would be able to defeat Fire Fiend. That was a pleasant surprise. Ha ha ha, brother, that's a good move. However, with your skills, it's a pity for you to stay under Kai-Dai. Are you interested in joining my side? Don't worry, I'll definitely give you the best treatment, the first prince said with a smile. Hearing this, Princess Kai-Dai's face sank. She had never thought that the crown prince would try to poach her in public. At the same time, she was extremely nervous because she could not guarantee whether the other party would agree or not. After all, the first prince's status and strength both surpassed hers. However, Lin Xian shook his head. There's no need for that. I'm not anyone's subordinate, and I won't go over to your side. I'm only taking action this time to make an exchange with someone else. Besides this, I also want to see what the strongest battle strength of the great Xian Empire's younger generation is like. As he finished speaking, his voice was filled with boundless killing intent. It was extremely sharp, and it shook space to the point terrifying cracks appeared. Indeed, Lin Xian had no interest in the fights between the princes and princesses. The reason why he acted was only because he had made a deal with Chu Yu. He helped Princess Kai-Dai, and Chu Yu helped him enter the Dan Zone. That was all. But now, he had another idea, and that was to battle with the strongest of the younger generation of the great Xian Empire. When the surrounding warriors heard this, they were all extremely shocked. Humph, you want to battle with the strongest genius of the great Xian Empire? You're too arrogant. Kid, I'll take you down. Get out here and die. Furious roars rang out one after another. Most of them were from the third prince's subordinates. They were naturally the ones who had lost face after the fire demon's defeat. So now, they were gnashing their teeth, wishing that they could capture the other party on the spot and kill him. I'm only speaking the truth. If you're not convinced, then feel free to attack. However, you have no chance of winning. Lin Xian spoke once more. You're courting death. Shameless boasting. Immediately, several warriors charged into the sky. Although they did not know where Lin Xian was, there were still several sword lights floating in the sky. As long as they shattered those sword lights, the other party would naturally appear. However, they soon regretted it. Because the sword chi in the sky had transformed into mountains that pressed down on them. Too terrifying. Like an ancient demonic mountain, it was incomparably heavy. In an instant, those warriors were all sent flying. Boom, boom, boom. Those people came quickly, but they were even faster when they were sent flying. And at this time, Lin Xian's voice sounded once more. Trash don't come, it's better for the strongest to come out and fight. Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This was too arrogant, to actually directly challenge the strongest. Princess Katie's side was even more shocked. They had never thought that this mysterious person was actually so powerful. However, Princess Kai-Dai revealed a smile, like a fresh flower blooming. She did not care about the other party's attitude, as long as the other party's strength was formidable, and could defeat the warriors under the third prince and eldest prince. That way, he would have the qualifications to enter the first tier. This was something she had dreamed of. Now, it was actually really going to be realized. But the third prince and eldest prince furrowed their brows. The other party's arrogant attitude made them extremely displeased. Especially the third prince, a hint of icy killing intent even surfaced in his eyes. The other party's actions were undoubtedly slapping his face. What he had to do now was to kill the other party to relieve the hatred in his heart. However, in this current situation, he would not make a move. He could only send the warriors under him to fight. So, he looked to the side. There sat a youth in white clothes, his eyes tightly closed, as if in meditation. He was really too quiet, incompatible with the surrounding environment. At this moment, that youth in white clothes felt the third prince's gaze and immediately opened his eyes. His starry eyes were incomparably deep, as if carrying a magical power. In this current situation, I can only ask you to make a move, the third prince said softly. The third prince's attitude was very low. At least, he did not treat the other party as a subordinate. Okay. The youth in white clothes nodded, then slowly stood up. Following his movements, a powerful aura was emitted from his body, spreading out in all directions. The expressions of the surrounding experts all changed. Although they were also experts, and were usually arrogant and proud, in front of this youth in white clothes, they were as obedient as kittens. Because no one dared to behave atrociously in front of this youth in white clothes. Not only were the warriors on the third prince's side shocked, at this moment, everyone in the entire Misty Wave Mountain villa held their breaths. Because they knew that Jiang Nantian was about to make a move. Jiang Nantian could be said to be known by everyone in the empire of Dixin. Because he was too dazzling. At the age of 25, his cultivation had reached the middle stage of the 3-star king realm, and his strength was incomparably terrifying. Countless figures of the older generation were not his match. He was like a dazzling star that everyone could only look up to. And now, he was about to make a move. Chapter 1542. Jiang Nantian's figure fluttered like a bolt of white lightning as he arrived high in the sky. But at that moment, another figure quickly flew over. Jiang Nantian frowned when he saw this figure. The others were shocked once more. Han Li! That's right, this figure was Han Li. He was a peerless genius on par with Jiang Nantian. However, Jiang Nantian was the #1 expert under the third prince, while Han Li was the #1 expert under the first prince. No one expected that even he would make a move. Could it be that the mysterious person was truly so powerful? You want to make a move? Jiang Nantian asked with a frown. Of course. Didn't you hear? He's challenging the strongest genius. Of course he's talking about me. It was clear that Han Li was the strongest genius and Jiang Nantian wasn't. What do you mean? Are you saying that I'm inferior to you? Jiang Nantian's voice was ice cold as he emitted a powerful aura. Of course you're inferior to me. Han Li sneered and his body also emitted a biting cold aura. The two auras collided in the air with a thunderous sound that shook the void. This kind of collision was too terrifying. Just the shockwaves alone sent many people flying. Everyone hurriedly retreated and looked at the sky nervously. Could it be that these two were going to fight ahead of time? Indeed, the two were extremely famous and their strength was comparable. They could be said to be a pair of peerless geniuses. However, they had both won and lost in their battles. They hadn't truly shown who was more powerful. Thus, when they heard that Lin Xian was going to challenge the strongest person, both of them stepped forward to challenge him. But now it seemed that the two of them would likely fight ahead of time to determine the victor. Everyone was looking forward to it. But at that moment, Lin Xian's voice sounded out once more. No need to be so troublesome. You two can come one at a time. Neither of you can escape. His voice was calm, but it carried an unquestionable domineering aura. One at a time? Neither of you can escape? Do you think they're cabbages? They're peerless geniuses. Everyone felt their scalps go numb. In the sky, Jiang Nantian and Han Li were also stunned. What an arrogant fellow! Jiang Nantian frowned. Han Li looked up to the sky and laughed. Good, of course, of course. Brat, it's been a long time since you dared to speak to me like that. I want to see what ability you have. He snorted coldly and was about to attack. However, this time, Jiang Nantian stopped him. I came out first, so naturally, I should make the first move. Humph, you dare to stop me? Han Li was enraged and his aura suddenly erupted, instantly enveloping the surrounding area like a torrential flood. Then, he clenched his fist and punched out. In an instant, all the sword rays in the sky exploded. "Brat, get out here!" This voice contained a biting cold killing intent that immediately caused many people's ears to bleed and their bodies to tremble. "Since you want to be the first to die, I'll fulfill your wish," Lin Xian said in a deep voice. Then, with a flash, he appeared in the sky. "What? It has appeared." At that moment, everyone raised their heads to look at the sky. Their expressions were filled with shock. They did not expect that the mysterious man would finally appear. "Hee, brother, I knew you were here." Fatty Luo looked at the sky and grinned. "What? It's really him." Zhou Tian, Han Kuan, Jade Beauty, Bai Yuran and the others looked at the figure in shock. They did not expect that the mysterious man was the young man they had met at the Fengwei brothel. Zhou Tian's heart was beating wildly. He was extremely shocked. At that time, he had recklessly attacked the other party. He did not expect the other party to be so powerful. Fortunately, the other party did not kill her at that time. Otherwise, she would have been dead. As for Jade Beauty and Bai Yuran, their faces were flushed and their eyes were filled with adoration. On the other side, Chuyu also heaved a sigh of relief. She slowly said, "Princess, it's him." "It's him?" Princess Kaidai looked at the figure in the sky with a shocked expression. To be honest, she was too shocked. She did not expect that Chuyu would help her find such a powerful martial artist who could even contend with Jiang Nantian and Han Li. The third prince, the eldest prince, and the surrounding experts all looked at the sky with grave expressions. At that moment, Lin Xian became the center of attention. Jiang Nantian and Han Li also stared at Lin Xian. Among them, Han Li coldly asked, "You are the mysterious man who attacked before?" "That's right, it's me." Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back. "Humph, it seems that's all there is to it. Let me see what qualifications you have to be so arrogant." With that said, Han Li clenched his fist again and punched. This punch was extremely terrifying. It was as if a mountain was trembling in the air. It directly shattered the void and arrived in front of Lin Xian. Clang! Lin Xian also clenched his fist and punched out to meet Han Li's attack. Suddenly, the two fists collided with a heaven-shaking sound. Terrifying cracks spread in all directions. The two did not use any divine abilities. It was a pure contest of strength. This attack was evenly matched. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect that the mysterious youth would be able to contend against Han Li. Han Li was also surprised. Good. I didn't expect you to have some strength. Try and take another punch from me." With that said, he punched out again. At the side, Jiang Nantian saw this scene and shook his head with a sigh. He knew that once Han Li attacked, it was impossible for him to stop unless victory was decided. But he did not want to take advantage of Han Li's precarious situation and fight 2 against 1. His figure blurred and he came down again. Suddenly, only Han Li and Lin Xian were left in the sky. Lin Xian let out a long roar and his body flickered with light. Countless strands of sword chi burst out from his body and soared into the sky. At that moment, he was like a powerful sword god floating in the sky. "Kill!" He formed an incantation gesture with his hand and pushed it forward. Suddenly, a huge Cheong Chi appeared in the sky and roared as it charged forward. Boom! The two exchanged blows, shaking heaven and earth. It was as if 2 gods were fighting. Terrifying auras spread out in all directions. Fortunately, the Misty Wave Mountain Villa was an ancient ruin and had powerful defensive formations. Otherwise, it would have been razed to the ground. Han Li used a mid-grade earth-tier martial art, the Heavenly Wind Fist. It was extremely powerful. As for Lin Xian, he used the 9 heavens transformations. One demon beast after another flew out from his fingers to meet Han Li's attack. These were 2 supreme techniques. They were extremely terrifying and caused the surrounding space to explode. After several tens of exchanges, Han Li suddenly let out a long roar. "I thought you had some strength, but it seems you're only SOSO. Since that's the case, let's end this battle. Die! He sneered and waved his hand. Suddenly, countless streaks of purple light soared into the sky and quickly covered it. Purple devil purgatory, seal all directions! With a furious roar, purple light quickly surged and sealed the entire space. Chapter 1543. A huge purple vortex appeared in the sky. Terrifying energy roared like a myriad of beasts, shocking everyone. Lin Xian, on the other hand, was surrounded by countless purple lights and sealed in a special space. The space was translucent, allowing everyone to clearly see what was happening inside. Countless streaks of purple energy roared like furious dragons and quickly blasted towards Lin Xian, wanting to blast him apart. Not good! This is the Purple Devil Purgatory, one of Han Li's consummate abilities. That's right. I heard that he used this Purple Devil Purgatory to kill many peerless geniuses. Even the older generation couldn't break it. It's over. I fear that Lin Xian won't be able to break it either. The scene in the sky caused everyone's expression to change, especially Jade Beauty, Bai Yuran, and the others below. They looked anxious. Although they weren't cultivators of the great Xian Empire, they had heard of the Purple Devil Purgatory. It was easy to imagine how terrifying this ability was. On the other side, Princess Kaidai, Chuyu, and the others wore grave expressions. They didn't expect that Han Li would be able to use such a terrifying martial art so quickly. Jiang Nantian's eyes flickered. He had fought with Han Li many times and naturally knew how terrifying the Purple Devil Purgatory was. Apart from him, very few people were able to escape. I wonder if he will be able to escape. Or will it end here? The Crown Prince and the others all laughed. Ha ha ha, what mysterious expert! He has no chance of victory against Han Li. That's right. Although that brat is quite skilled, he can't contend against a top genius like Han Li. This battle is over. Many people sneered. They believed that Lin Xian had no hope of escaping. In the sky, the Purple Devil Purgatory. A purple translucent space floated in the air. Violent energy surged within it, and Lin Xian was the first to bear the brunt of it. However, Lin Xian didn't appear to be anxious. He appeared to be quite calm. In the next moment, his eyes focused and he coldly shouted. Soon after, he clenched his hand and grabbed at the air. Suddenly, a black devil sword quickly appeared. This sword was completely black and had demonic patterns on it. It emitted a mysterious and terrifying aura. 9 held Devil's sword. With a slash of the sword light soared into the sky. The entire demonic sword emitted an incomparably terrifying energy. Boom! In the next moment, the black sword radiance flashed and slashed violently on the purple demon purgatory. Immediately, a cracking sound was heard. The entire void began to tremble violently. Pun! In the next moment, an astonishing explosion was heard. The terrifying purple demon purgatory was actually split into 2 by the sword strike. Lin Xian, on the other hand, turned into a beam of light and dashed out at high speed. What? It was broken! How is this possible? Everyone was shocked, not daring to believe this. The experts on the First Prince's side opened their mouths wide and their minds went blank. That was the Purple Devil Purgatory, an extremely powerful secret technique that Han Li possessed. In the past, many genius martial artists, and even older generation figures, had fallen under this move. But now, it was actually split apart by a sword. Even Han Li's pupils abruptly contracted and he wore an expression of extreme shock. He refused to believe that his opponent would be able to breach his purple demon purgatory so easily. Damn it, how is this possible? How did he do it? However, the only answer he received was a shocking sword radiance. The Black 9 Darkness Devil Sword was like a black mountain. It was incomparably terrifying as it ruthlessly smashed towards Han Li. Pung! In the next moment, Han Li was forced back. What? He was forced back. Everyone cried out in alarm, not daring to believe their eyes. The incomparably powerful Han Li had actually been forced back? This was truly too shocking. At this moment, Everyone in the Misty Wave Mountain Manor was extremely shocked. "Ah, brat, I'm going to kill you." After being forced back by a single sword strike, Hanli was incomparably crazed. He hadn't anticipated that his opponent would be so powerful, so he had been careless and had been forced back. This was intolerable. At this moment, he was completely enraged. Hanli floated in the air and stopped his retreat. His purple robes quickly fluttered and he emitted an incomparably terrifying aura. That pair of ice-cold eyes had turned into a purple light. There were also mysterious talisman characters flickering around him. His gaze was as sharp as a sword, directly piercing through space. Those familiar with him knew that at this moment, Hanli was truly enraged. Many of the cultivators on the eldest prince's side felt their hearts wildly pound. "It's over. It's been a long time since I've seen Hanli like this. The last time I saw him like this was during his battle with Jiang Nantian. That's right. When Hanli goes berserk, no one can stop him. Only Jiang Nantian could resist him. Apart from him, no one else had any chance of survival." When the eldest prince saw this, he let out a sigh. Previously, he had wanted Hanli to subdue him and take him in as a subordinate. But now, it seemed that this was impossible. This was because once Hanli went berserk, his opponent would definitely die. The spectating cultivators were also shocked. At this moment, Hanli was like a fiend god. They didn't dare to look directly at him. "Bright monarch palm." In the sky, Hanli furiously roared and struck out with his palm. Suddenly, the sky boiled. A gigantic purple palm was formed rapidly. Like a tidal wave, it swept towards Lin Xian at high speed. Lin Xian's gaze was also resolute. He grasped the 9 Darkness Devil Sword and slashed out. Suddenly, a terrifying sword light rushed forward. The 9 Darkness Devil Sword was incomparably mysterious. He too even guessed that this devil sword might have come from the terrifying forbidden land of life, the underworld. One could imagine how terrifying this devil sword was. Its grade wouldn't be lower than an Earth-grade treasure. Now that it was in Lin Xian's hands, it was incomparably powerful. Lin Xian's great dragon sword so possessed fearsome offensive power. Although he was only a 1-star king, his battle prowess wasn't inferior to any 3-star king. Thus, this sword strike was extremely powerful. Pun! The black sword light and the purple palm collided, creating a resounding clang. The entire space boiled. "What?" He blocked it again. Seeing that the bright monarch palm was useless, Han Li's expression turned gloomy. He didn't think that his opponent would be this powerful. However, he furiously roared and decided to attack with all his strength. "Bright monarch palm!" Han Li furiously roared and his body shined with purple light. In an instant, countless mysterious talisman characters revolved around his body. Mysterious illusory figures appeared on his body. They were incomparably terrifying. In the next moment, his figure blurred and quickly charged towards Lin Xian like purple lightning. Lin Xian's expression didn't change as he waved the 9 Darkness Devil Sword in his hand. The power of 4,000 swords. At this moment, he used the myriad sword art and wielded the power of 4,000 swords. Suddenly, the wind and clouds above changed. 4 streaks of black lightning quickly formed. Each of the 4 streaks of lightning contained the power of 1,000 swords. It was incomparably terrifying. In addition to the sharpness of the great dragon sword soul, it could be said that the power was beyond imagination. Chapter 1544. Rumble. The black thunderbolt was like a sword radiance, but it was also like a huge mountain. It quickly descended from the sky and shattered the entire void. In an instant, the sky had become a sea of black lightning. The entire void was submerged, and Han Li bore the brunt of the endless sea of lightning. What? What a terrifying scene! When the crowd saw this, their expressions wildly changed. The reason for that was because they were able to clearly sense the berserk power brought forth by the lightning. It was simply too terrifying. When they encountered such power, they had no power to resist at all. Even Jiang Nantian wore a grave expression, and his gaze wavered. "Ah! Within the sea of lightning, Han Li roared towards the sky as his body flickered with purple light. However, his resistance was futile. This lightning was the result of the myriad sword art combined with the power of the great dragon sword soul. It was incomparably powerful. In an instant, the 4 purple devilish shadows he summoned were shattered by the sea of lightning. Not only that, but his body was also struck. When the black lightning struck his body, his chi and blood roiled and he couldn't stand steadily. However, as a peerless genius, he was powerful. He quickly summoned a purple armor that covered his body to resist the black lightning that filled the sky. However, he was still blasted back continuously. Not only was he forced back, but his chi and blood roiled as he coughed up a mouthful of blood. In this exchange, he had suffered yet another loss. When the surrounding cultivators saw this, their expressions greatly changed. They didn't dare to believe their eyes. This was Han Li. He was the most dazzling genius of the great Xian Empire's younger generation. But now, he had been beaten to the point of spitting blood. Just how powerful was that youth called Lin Xian? They didn't dare to imagine. At this moment, even Princess Kai Dai, the first prince, the third prince, and the others had extremely grave expressions. Jian Nantian suddenly stood up and stared at the sky with a frightening glint in his eyes. He had fought with Han Li many times and was well aware of his opponent's strength. Even he wouldn't be able to injure him so easily. Han Li's body trembled with anger. His opponent's strength had shocked him greatly, but he couldn't accept that he had been injured. Therefore, in the next moment, he roared angrily again and performed a powerful divine ability martial art. Akala! Han Li incessantly waved his hands, causing the purple light on his body to become even more dazzling. A purple figure formed behind him, exuding a mysterious power. Kill! In the next moment, he let out a furious roar and charged towards Lin Xian. This time, he was truly enraged. He was determined to kill Lin Xian. 3 heads and 6 arms! Arriving in front of Lin Xian, Han Li shouted once more. Suddenly, the purple silhouette took a step forward and fused with him. Instantly, 2 more heads and 4 more arms appeared on both sides of him. He looked extremely strange. With 3 heads and 6 arms, there were no blind spots at all. Furthermore, the 2 arms that were formed were holding sabers, swords, and spears. At that moment, Han Li's aura had reached its peak. Lin Xian, on the other hand, waved the 9 Serenity's devil sword. One after another, peerless demonic beasts flew out from the tip of his sword. The Qiongqi, the Heavenly Peng, the Dijiang the Zhuyan, and the 9 Yin were all ancient divine beasts. Although they were formed from spiritual power, they were extremely powerful as if they were real divine beasts. Peng peng peng! The 2 forces collided in the air, erupting with resplendent radiance. The sky boiled as a vast amount of energy surged into the distance. After several tens of moves, Lin Xian suddenly pointed with his left hand. 3 void-shattering fingers quickly flew out in an extremely strange manner. Puff puff! Dang! The void-shattering fingers were traceless and capable of destroying everything. Now that Lin Xian had used them, they were even more unfathomable. 2 of the void-shattering fingers pierced through the 2 purple silhouettes beside Han Li. As for the third, Han Li's true body dodged it. But even so, it had achieved an extraordinary result. This was because it had broken through Han Li's Akala body. The 3 heads and 6 arms quickly disappeared. Han Li's face was pale. This was because his divine ability had been broken, and he had also suffered a certain amount of backlash. What? It was broken again! Everyone felt their scalps go numb. They didn't dare to believe this. From the beginning of the battle until now, Han Li had been suppressed by his opponent. Every time he used a powerful divine ability, it was quickly broken through by his opponent. It was as if his opponent had a natural advantage over him. They knew that if this happened once, it could be due to luck. But if it happened multiple times, it couldn't be explained by luck. This meant that his opponent was incomparably powerful. It was even possible that his battle prowess surpassed Han Li's. With that thought, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. At that moment, Lin Xian coldly said, You've already lost. Let's switch. Everyone fell silent. Indeed, Han Li had been sent flying 3 times. This meant that his opponent was extremely powerful. However, they couldn't accept this reality. As for Han Li, he couldn't accept it. He angrily roared, "Don't be so arrogant. I was careless and didn't use my king's domain. Brat, my true techniques are all in my king's domain. Now I will kill you with my own hands." With that said, he angrily roared. His eyes blossomed with incomparably resplendent light. They were like 2 streaks of light that tore through the sky. "Behold my king's domain, death's door." Along with this voice, purple light quickly flashed from Han Li's body. A purple domain instantly enveloped him. Within the purple domain, purple chi roiled. It was incomparably mysterious. A 10-meter-tall purple gate appeared out of thin air. It floated in the air. The gate was engraved with mysterious vein patterns that emitted an ancient aura. Death's door. When everyone saw this, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. As for the 3rd prince, the eldest prince, and Princess Kai Dai, they all stood up. Their expressions were filled with shock. That's right, Han Li's king's domain was the death's door. However, he was normally very powerful and rarely used his king's domain in battle. As a result, they rarely saw it. They didn't expect that they would see it in battle today. The death's door was one of the most powerful king's domains in the Grand Xian Empire. Princess Kai Dai's expression was grave. She knew that things were troublesome because she was well aware of how terrifying the death's door was. The death's door was created by a cultivation art. It was extremely famous in the Grand Xian Empire. However, it was extremely difficult to cultivate. In the past several thousand years, only 3 or 4 people had successfully cultivated it. Han Li was one of them. On the other side, the 3rd prince frowned. His subordinate, Jiang Nantian, was extremely powerful. However, he was unable to completely defeat Han Li because of the death's door. The eldest prince smiled. Since he used the death's door, that brat won't be able to win. It's a pity. I didn't think that brat would be able to force Han Li to this extent. It is truly rare. Chapter 1545. The Gate of Death was extremely terrifying. It was said that when the gate opened, no one would be able to survive. No one knew what was behind the Gate of Death. However, some said that it could be connected to the underworld or hell. Regardless, there was no doubt that the Gate of Death was extremely frightening. Han Li stood near the Gate of Death with an indifferent expression. Brat, you should be proud of yourself for forcing me to use this move. However, since you've angered me, you won't be able to survive. Now go to hell. With that said, he waved his hand and spoke in a deep voice. Death's sound wave! Following Han Li's voice, the purple Gate of Death blossomed with light. Purple devilish patterns appeared on its surface. The purple demonic runes vibrated rapidly, forming waves of death, waves that spread out rapidly. These sound waves were too terrifying. They were tangible and specialized in harming one's soul. It was extremely strange and impossible to guard against. There were a few unlucky ones in the crowd that were swept by the sound waves and fell to the ground. They weren't injured, but their auras had been completely extinguished. How terrifying! When the others saw this, they retreated in fright, their scalps tingling. Fortunately, the majority of the sound waves were wildly sweeping towards Lin Xian. Damn it, this is a soul attack. That brat Lin definitely won't be able to withstand it. Of course. That brat's battle prowess is already so great. His soul power can't possibly be that outstanding. After all, a person's energy is limited. He can't take on everything. It seems he's finished this time. That's right. I didn't expect Han Li to be so powerful. His Gate of Death released a soul-destroying wave of death. I fear that not many people can withstand such an attack. As the crowd discussed this, they nervously looked towards the sky. In the sky, Lin Xian wore a grave expression. Ever since he had come out of the Gate of Death, he had felt his hair stand on end. Han Li's king's domain was truly too strange. He had never seen it before. However, He possessed the great dragon sword soul. Even in this strange domain, he didn't fear it. Thus, when he saw the other party unleashing the death soundwave that specialized in destroying souls, he immediately harumphed coldly. Others might not have so much energy to cultivate both combat strength and soul force at the same time, but he was different. Previously, after cultivating the sky spill visualization diagram, his soul power had become extremely strong. He was definitely not inferior to a 3-star king. Moreover, the great dragon sword spirit was an offensive saint spell between heaven and earth that could destroy everything. This kind of strength was not only reflected in battle, but also in soul force. It was even enough to destroy those illusory things. Therefore, although this death sound wave was terrifying, and to the majority of martial artists, it was a sure kill divine ability ultimate skill. However, it had no effect on him. Dragon King roar! In the next moment, Lin Xian let out a cold shout. His soul force coordinated with the great dragon sword soul and quickly released the sound wave attack. Roar! This sound wave was extremely terrifying. The Buddha true dragon roared, its voice shaking the heavens and earth. Boom! The Dragon King's roar collided directly with the death sound wave, producing a violent collision sound. It was as if swords and sabers had clashed against each other, causing countless black cracks to appear in the void. Explode! 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 The sky exploded with a bang, and flickering black holes appeared one after another. Fortunately, they were fighting in the sky. Otherwise, the entire Misty Wave Mountain Manor would have been affected even with the defensive formation. What? He blocked it! That's impossible! Han Li's expression greatly changed. He didn't dare to imagine that his opponent was actually able to block his death soundwave. One had to know that his death soundwave wasn't an ordinary sound wave. Ordinary sound waves only cause damage to the body. However, his death soundwave not only caused damage to the body, it also attacked one's soul power. This kind of combined damage was the most terrifying. Ordinary martial artists were completely unable to defend against it. Only if they had a treasure of the soul Dao would they be lucky enough to survive. Jiang Nantian had such a treasure in his hands, which was why he was able to fight him to a draw. As for the others, none of them were a match for him. But now, his opponent had also used a soundwave martial art to block his death soundwave. This greatly surprised him. The others were even more shocked and didn't dare to believe it. They originally thought that Lin Xian was dead for sure. No one could resist this sound wave. However, the current situation was beyond their expectations. The other party used a roar to directly block the death sound wave. That terrifying sound even caused their auras to surge and their bodies to almost split apart. Damn it, what kind of martial art is this? It's actually so terrifying? No way, how can his soul power be so strong? F***CK. Where did this kid appear from? Why is he like a freak? Isn't this combat strength too terrifying? Exclamations sounded one after another. As for Princess Kaidai, Chuyu, Jade Beauty, Bai Yuran, and the others, they all heaved a sigh of relief. The fact that Lin Xian was fine was undoubtedly the best news for them. Buzz buzz. The two sound waves collided and finally disappeared at the same time. The crack in the sky also quickly recovered. However, Han Li's expression was extremely ugly. Previously, he had vowed that the other party was dead for sure. But now, the other party actually broke through his death soundwave. This was intolerable. Since you're done attacking, it's my turn to attack, Lin Xian said coldly. Then, he waved his hand and the dragon sword domain suddenly appeared beside him. Myriad sword art, myriad sword heavenly attraction. Lin Xian once again used the myriad sword art. The dragon sword domain trembled and countless sword chi quickly surged like sword spirits. Then, it soared into the sky. Suddenly, multicolored light filled the sky and sword chi crisscrossed. The entire sky was completely filled with ruthless sword light. These sword chi were incomparably fast, and all of them blasted on the door of death, erupting into a shocking explosion. Pung pung! This attack was incomparably powerful, and immediately caused the purple door of death to tremble. Even the light above it became dim. Damn it! Seeing that his door of death was damaged, Han Li's face also turned pale. He roared crazily and his palms quickly changed seals. Door of death, death ray! Buzz! Ka! Suddenly, the purple door of death shone again. After that, the tightly shut door slowly opened, emitting kacha sounds. An incomparably terrifying aura was emitted from the crack in the door. That aura was too terrifying and made people feel despair. The previous death sound wave was only emitted from the door. The door did not open. And now, the purple door of death had opened. What kind of incomparably terrifying energy would it display? No one dared to imagine. However, they knew that the next attack would definitely be more terrifying than the death storm. Chapter 1546. Death Ray. Along with Han Li's voice, a purple ray of light quickly condensed in the crack of the door and blasted forward. Boom! A purple ray of light instantly tore through the sky like a furious dragon. Wherever it passed, the sky was quickly shattered. What? Everyone felt their scalps go numb, and their expressions were filled with horror. This attack was far too terrifying. It was capable of instantly killing any 3-star monarch. They didn't think that the death ray would possess such terrifying power. Even Lin Xian's pupils shrank abruptly. The purple death ray was extremely sharp and quickly arrived in front of Lin Xian. Lin Xian let out a low shout and activated the Dragon Sword domain. The Dragon Sword domain immediately trembled and countless strands of sword chi quickly condensed into 2 wings that quickly enveloped Lin Xian. The 2 wings were completely formed from sword chi, and when they closed, they covered the sky and protected Lin Xian. Boom! In the next moment, the death ray collided with the sword chi wings and violently clashed. Clouds and mist surged and waves of chi surged. It was as if 2 mountains had collided in the sky, creating a deafening sound. The death ray was extremely terrifying and could kill a 3-star monarch. However, when it collided with the 2 sword chi wings, it lost its effect. Although the entire space shook violently, the death ray wasn't able to break through the 2 azure wings. What? How is this possible? Looking at the scene in front of him, Han Li widened his eyes in disbelief. That was the death ray that he was so proud of. It could kill any 3-star monarch. But now, it was unable to break through his opponent's defenses. This was simply too unbelievable. Crack! The huge sword chi wings unfurled and slowly opened, revealing the situation inside. Lin Xian's clothes fluttered in the wind and his expression was calm. He hadn't suffered any injuries. In the next moment, his gaze focused and his body released a terrifying aura. Then, he soared into the sky with the Dragon Sword domain and charged forward. What? When Han Li saw this, his pupils contracted and a sense of fear welled up in his heart. However, he still summoned up his courage and roared, "Doors of death, open completely for me!" As his voice fell, the spiritual energy in his body burned fiercely, and a terrifying energy ran through his body. Because with his current cultivation and strength, he was still unable to completely open the door of death. However, at this moment, he was burning his spiritual energy to stimulate his body's potential. He wanted to open the door of death ahead of time to kill his opponent. The gate of death was incomparably terrifying. It was his strongest move. At this moment, he was willing to use all of his strength to open the gate of death. Ka! Boom! 2 deep sounds rang out, and the door of death slowly opened, revealing a pitch-black darkness. No one knew where the door led to, but the energy emitted from it was too terrifying. Even those of the older generation had expressions of despair on their faces. Die! Han Li burned every inch of power within his body, and his entire body erupted with dazzling light. The gates of death were fully opened, emitting a terrifying suction force that instantly enveloped Lin Xian. Then, the devouring power pulled Lin Xian into the door of death. Whoosh! Lin Xian's figure entered the door of death and disappeared. The entire sky regained its clarity once again. It was quiet, without a trace of sound. What's going on? What happened? Everyone's eyes widened. That Lin Xian was sucked into the door of death? He really went in? This is the first time I've seen such a strange situation. Everyone was shocked and didn't dare to believe it. Even Princess Kai Dai, the third prince, and the others frowned. Han Li faced the sky and laughed. Ha ha ha, brat, no matter how strong you are, you won't be able to come out after entering the door of death. From today onwards you can go to hell for me. His voice was filled with arrogance and pride. In his opinion, Lin Xian was an extremely powerful enemy. But so what if he was powerful? Wasn't he still killed by him? What? Entering the door of death is the same as entering hell. That brat won't be able to come back. Rumor has it that the door of death is connected to an incomparably mysterious world. Now it seems that it is true. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. They knew that the battle was over. Lin Xian had entered the door of death and wouldn't be able to come out. Seeing this scene, Han Kun, the Fire Cloud Nation youth, and the other martial artists all sighed. As for Jade Beauty, Bai Yuran, and the others, their faces were pale. Princess Kai Dai also sighed, and her eyes seemed to have lost their luster. She was indeed quite sad because Lin Xian's strength could have pushed her to the first tier. But now that he had entered the incomparably mysterious door of death, it was likely that he wouldn't be able to come out in this lifetime. At the side, Jiang Nanshan's expression was solemn as he whispered to himself. Is it over? He's still lost. It seems that the door of death is indeed incomparably strange. In the sky, Han Li laughed wildly once again. Then he swept his gaze and stared at Jiang Nantian as he coldly shouted. Jiang Nantian, come up! I'm going to finish you off together! This voice was filled with endless domineering aura. When the surrounding people heard this, their scalps went numb. What? He still wants to fight? This Han Li is too powerful. He just fought the powerful Lin Xian, and now he wants to fight Jiang Nantian. When Jiang Nantian heard this, he slightly shook his head. No, you just finished a great battle and must have consumed a lot of energy. Why don't we wait for you to recover before we fight? He decisively refused. In the sky, Han Li tightly frowned. Because he had previously completely opened the door of death, he had burned a lot of spiritual power, so he wanted to take advantage of this power to quickly finish off Jiang Nantian. But he didn't expect that Jiang Nantian wouldn't be fooled and wouldn't fight him. This caused him to feel anxious. Because when the power he activated disappeared, he feared that he would enter a period of weakness for a period of time. When that time came, he would be no match for Jiang Nantian. Humph! What? You don't dare to fight? Could it be that you're afraid? Han Li sneered. It doesn't matter. As long as you say that you've lost to me, I won't fight you. However, Jiang Nantian still slightly shook his head. I'm not afraid of you. I just don't want to take advantage of you. Let's fight later. As an expert, he naturally saw Han Li's current state at a glance. If he went up to fight now, he would undoubtedly be courting death. He wasn't that foolish. Han Li coldly laughed. It's not up to you to decide. With that said, his figure blurred and he quickly charged towards Jiang Nantian. Regardless of whether Jiang Nantian was willing or not, he was going to suck him into the door of death. That way, no one would be his match. Chapter 1547. Regardless of whether Jiang Nantian was willing or not, he was going to suck him into the door of death. That way, no one would be his match. Everyone was shocked by this scene and couldn't understand. However, they soon came to a realization. They discovered that the door of death in the sky was slowly closing. That terrifying aura was also gradually weakening. It seemed that the time for Han Li to activate the energy was up. Han Li naturally knew this, so he couldn't help but speed up. But in the next moment, he was stunned. That was because the door of death behind him had stopped closing halfway. There was a large expanse of pitch-black darkness in the crack of the door. But in the boundless darkness, a deep sound could be heard. Boom! 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 The sound was very deep, as if someone was beating a drum. What is that sound? Where is it coming from? Could it be that someone is still fighting? Everyone was puzzled. When Hanli looked behind him, his expression greatly changed. Not good! His expression became very unsightly because he discovered that the sound was coming from the door of death. But why was there movement coming from the door of death? This kind of abnormal change had never happened before. Could it be that brat? Hanli was bewildered, but apart from this, he had no other explanation. Furthermore, the others seemed to have discovered this scene and began to make guesses. Could it be Lin Xian's movement? It can't be. Didn't they say that the door of death was connected to the netherworld? Once one entered, they would be forever suppressed in hell? How could it come out? But only Lin Xian entered the door of death. If it wasn't him, who else could it be? For a moment, everyone was discussing spiritedly as they carefully looked at the sky. Han Li's gaze was gloomy as he coldly snorted and once again unleashed a terrifying attack on the door of death to seal it. Humph! No matter who you are, you won't be able to break through my door of death. Once you enter, you'll stay there forever. He quickly formed a hand seal and formed a powerful seal on the door of death that emitted a resplendent light. However, the sound of the collision became more and more intense. At first, it sounded like a drum, but now it sounded like thunder exploding in the sky, causing everyone's scalps to feel numb. Boom! Pun! Crack, crack! Finally, the sound became more and more intense, and finally, a black crack appeared in the sky. Pun! The seal on the gate of death instantly shattered. A huge black hole formed above the death's gate. Then, a figure flew out quickly. Lin Xian, it's Lin Xian! What? Did that kid really come out? How is this possible? He actually managed to come out of the door of death? Heavens! Is he still human? Everyone cried out in alarm, not daring to believe it. The figure in the sky was Lin Xian. He and his powerful strength had broken through the energy of the door of death and returned to reality. At this moment, the shadow of an azure dragon appeared beneath his feet. Sword chi flickered on his body. The demonic sword in his hand bloomed with a strange light, and his entire person became extremely sharp. What? It's you! How is that possible? How did you break through my door of death? When Hanli saw him, his expression greatly changed, and his heart was greatly shaken. To tell the truth, he was truly shocked. This was because no one had ever been able to escape from his door of death. Furthermore, he believed that no one had ever been able to escape. But now, someone had truly come out. He didn't dare to believe this scene. In the sky, Lin Xian's gaze was cold. The door of death is truly not bad. It's the most powerful domain I've ever seen. However, it's still unable to trap me. Now, the battle is over. With that said, his body blurred and he held the 9 Darkness Devil sword in his hand. His entire body turned into a streak of resplendent dragon-shaped sword chi, quickly attacking Hanli. This sword strike was truly terrifying. The sword light was like a sea, instantly illuminating the entire sky. He was like a huge dragon, rampaging through the sky with an extremely tyrannical aura. When he felt this aura, Lin Xian felt his scalp go numb. Without any hesitation, he recalled the door of death and began to defend himself. Suddenly, a mysterious purple gate appeared in front of him, emitting a strange aura. It was as if it was connected to hell. Boom! In the next moment, the two collided. Light erupted and heaven and earth trembled. The door of death was directly shattered, disappearing into the void. As for Hanli, he was sent flying, spitting out a mouthful of blood. It was unknown how many of his bones had been broken. When everyone saw this scene, they were all stupefied. They hadn't expected that the previously incomparably powerful Hanli would actually be defeated. Plop! Hanli's body fiercely fell to the ground, unconscious. The surrounding people all sank into deep shock, unable to speak. After a long while, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, their eyes filled with shock. The most dazzling of the great Qian Empire's younger generation, Han Li, had actually been defeated. As for Lin Xian's valiance, it caused everyone to be endlessly shocked. This battle wasn't a matter of luck, but a true battle of strength. Han Li was very powerful, able to suppress the younger generation. However, Lin Xian was even more powerful. Even Han Li wasn't a match for him. Ha ha! As expected, he won! I've struck gold this time! Fatty Luo clapped his hands. He had bet on Lin Xian's victory. He would definitely make a fortune. At the side, the gambling youth widened his eyes in disbelief. Damn, this is a truly ferocious person! Fatty Luo, where did you find such a person? His eyes shined as if he had seen a rare treasure. He won! He really won! Han Kun, the youth from the Fire Cloud Nation, Jade Beauty, Bai Yuran, and the others all widened their eyes in disbelief. On the other side, Princess Kai Dai let out a sigh of relief. A smile appeared on her exquisite face. Chuyu was also extremely shocked. Then he frowned. Who knew what kind of storm such a person would cause in Danzong? On the other side, the eldest prince's expression was malevolent. He hadn't expected that his strongest subordinate, Han Li, would actually be defeated. He couldn't accept this. Damn it, how is this possible? Who is he? How could he defeat Han Li? The eldest prince raised his head and looked at the sky, his eyes releasing a cold light. Lin Xian, on the other hand, ignored the first prince and looked in another direction. Jiangnan Tian, it's your turn. What? He still wants to fight? Hearing this, everyone felt their scalps go numb. They hadn't expected that Lin Xian would face Jiang Nantian so quickly. Immediately, everyone became excited again because they wanted to know if Lin Xian could defeat Jiang Nantian again. Jiang Nantian also took a deep breath, his expression extremely solemn. Clearly, the previous battle had shocked him greatly. Not only that, he realized that even he wouldn't have been able to block the last move. When he heard his opponent's voice, his expression became even more solemn. But in the end he sighed. No need. You've won this battle. Chapter 1548. With that said, his entire body seemed to have lost its luster. As a peerless genius, he had his own pride. But now, he discovered that he simply couldn't defeat his opponent. Even if he attacked, he feared that he would suffer the same fate as Han Li. Rather than that, he might as well directly admit defeat. When the surrounding people heard this, their scalps went numb. They didn't dare to believe it. They didn't think that Jiang Nantian would actually directly admit defeat. This was even more shocking than Han Li's defeat. One had to know that Jiang Nantian was a peerless genius. Such a person definitely had a stronger self-esteem than ordinary people. But now, his opponent had actually taken the initiative to admit defeat. This meant that he had absolutely no confidence in defeating Lin Shui. Perhaps not even the slightest bit. Otherwise, he absolutely wouldn't admit defeat. With that thought, everyone was extremely shocked. Just how powerful was Lin Xian? He had directly caused a genius of the great Qian Empire to admit defeat. This was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. Alright, since it's like this, I won't make things difficult for you. Lin Xian nodded. Soon after, he restrained his aura and quickly floated down. Since his opponent had admitted defeat, there was no need for him to fight. Furthermore, he had already achieved his goal. Chu Yu should be able to recommend him to enter the Danzong. Lin Xian didn't go to Princess Kai Dai. Instead, he found a quiet place and sat down cross-legged. Next, the competition continued. The martial artists under the various princesses and princes sparred. However, there was no match that was as exciting as Lin Xian and Han Li's dishes. Finally, all the battles ended. Princess Kai Dai got her wish and entered the first echelon. Although the martial Dao assembly had ended and the various princesses and princes had left, the martial artists didn't. This was because there was still a grand banquet waiting for them. Lin Xian stood up and prepared to leave. But at this moment, A beautiful maid quickly arrived in front of him and respectfully said, "Young master, my princess invites you." "Yes." Lin Xian slightly nodded. He naturally knew that this was someone sent by Princess Kai Dai. Therefore, he didn't decline and directly followed the other party. In a hall of the Misty Wave Villa, Princess Kai Dai, Chuyu, and their subordinates were all gathered together. Everyone's face was filled with excitement, especially Princess Kai Dai, who had a smile hanging on her beautiful face. Soon, they saw the beautiful maidservant bringing Lin Xian in. Immediately, everyone stood up. His subordinates were all nervous. After all, Lin Xian was an even more terrifying genius than Han Li. Being together with such a genius, they couldn't help but feel nervous and restrained. Princess Kai Dai smiled and said, "Lin Gongzi, please sit." "All right." Lin Xian nodded, then sat down boldly. This time, Kai Dai was able to enter the first group. "It's all thanks to Lin Gongzi." "It's nothing. I merely made an exchange with Fairy Chuyu. It's only natural for me to act," Lin Xian indifferently said. Soon after, he glanced at Chuyu and said, "Since I've already done it, I hope Fairy Chuyu won't forget your promise. Don't worry, I will definitely be able to let you enter the Dan Zone. However, it's hard to say what kind of identity you'll have. But with your strength, you should be able to quickly climb up," Chuyu said. At that moment, Princess Kai Dai asked, "Why does Lin Gongzi want to join the Dan Zone? Why not join my great Xian Empire? The colored disc will definitely treat young master with the highest courtesy." In truth, the great Xian Empire and the Dan Zone were equal in strength. This was why she was so confident in keeping Lin Xian. "Many thanks for Princess's good intentions, but I've already decided to join the Dan Zone." Lin Xian shook his head and refused. In truth, if it weren't for the Niwa of Gojoseon's wish, Lin Xian wouldn't join the Dan Zone either. He would find a sacred land to join. Thus, he wouldn't join the great Xian Empire even more. Seeing Lin Xian's decisive refusal, Princess Kai Dai was disappointed. However, after a while, she said, "Men, bring the gift I've prepared." Soon, a cultivator in black armor walked over with a wooden box. The wooden box was a foot tall and had exquisite carvings on it. It was obvious at a glance that it was made of high-quality wood. "What is this?" Everyone was puzzled. Even Lin Xian was curious. Princess Kai Dai smiled and said, "Open it." As she said this, her eyes flickered. It was obvious that she was very confident in her gift. The cultivator in black armor heard the order and immediately opened the square box. Inside was a Buddha statue. The statue was very lifelike. However, there were 3 sword slashes on the statue. "This is?" Everyone was shocked. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. He wasn't unfamiliar with this kind of gift. He had seen it before in the Tianwu continent. However, the sword marks at that time paled in comparison to the ones now. The sword marks on the Buddha statue must have been left by a peerless swordsman. That was because the remnant aura made his heart palpitate. Moreover, not only was the aura sharp, the sword marks seemed to contain a very mysterious energy. At this time, Princess Kai Dai said, "I paid a great price to collect this Buddha statue. The 3 sword marks on it are very mysterious and ever-changing. If you can understand it, it will definitely be a great fortune for a swordsman. I was reluctant to take it out before. Today, I'll give it to Lin Gongzi." Hearing this, the surrounding cultivators sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were full of envy. They weren't weak. Naturally, they could feel the mysterious power contained in the sword marks. It could be said that this was a priceless treasure. However, they could only be envious. There was no other way. Because they couldn't get such a treasure. Perhaps if it were someone else, they wouldn't be able to get it either. Perhaps only Lin Xian could make Princess Kai Dai give such a treasure. As for Lin Xian, he took a deep breath. The reason for that was because those 3 sword scars were extremely useful to him. So in the next moment, he quickly nodded. "In that case, I won't be polite. However, I still won't stay here. But I can help you one more time. No matter what, no matter who the enemy is, I can help you once. But there's only one chance. I hope you'll take it seriously. Really? Hearing this, Princess Kai Dai was excited. Then, thank you very much, Lin Gongzi. To be honest, she was originally very disappointed. Because even after giving away the Buddha statue, she didn't keep Lin Xian. However, when she heard Lin Xian's words, she suddenly smiled. Chapter 1549. No matter when or what kind of enemy she faced, Lin Xian would help her at least once. This was definitely a very precious condition. One had to know that Lin Xian was already very powerful now, and from the looks of it, he was only in his 20s. His future achievements could be said to be limitless. With such a person agreeing to help her, even if she encountered a huge problem in the future, it would probably be solved. Kai Dai thanked Lin Gongzi here. You're welcome. Lin Xian nodded, then put away the Buddha statue. Then, he turned to look at Chuyu. Chuyu naturally knew what he meant, so she said, I might stay here for a few more days. If you don't have anything else to do, stay here for a few more days. When things here are over, I'll take you to Danzong. All right, in that case, I won't disturb you. Lin Xian stood up. Xiao Shui, take Lin Gongzi to the courtyard to rest. The beautiful little maid from before once again took Lin Xian away. In the next few days, Lin Xian stayed in the Yanbao mountain villa. However, he did not participate in any banquets. Instead, he went into seclusion and began to comprehend the 3 sword scars on the Buddha statue. The 3 sword scars were indeed incomparably profound and contained supreme sword Tao. Even Lin Xian could not fully comprehend them in a short period of time. However, every time he comprehended, his understanding of the sword Tao deepened by a lot. Combined with his previous battle experience, this time, he created 3 sword moves based on the 3 sword scars. The first move, Azure Dragon Break. This was a very powerful move. The second move, Underworld Waning Moon Break. This move not only incorporated the power of the sword scars, but also the characteristics of Death's Door. To be more precise, it was Death's Door that inspired him to use this move. This was because he had been absorbed by Death's Door and entered a very special space. If he did not have the great dragon sword soul and powerful combat strength, he would not have been able to return at all. Therefore, he had a lot of understanding of this move. Therefore, the second move was to directly use powerful sword chi to shatter the starry sky and send the enemy into an unknown space to be exiled. The third move, Mirror Still Water. This was a defensive sword technique that could increase the defense of the dragon sword domain. These 3 moves were created by Lin Xian by combining his own strength and the comprehension of the 3 sword scars. They were very suitable. Its power was also extraordinary, and it was definitely not inferior to an earth-tier martial skill. When he created these 3 moves, the banquet in the Yanbao mountain villa also ended. Because 5 days had passed, the banquet in Chang'an would eventually come to an end. And on this day, Chuyu finally came to find him. Let's go. All right. Lin Xian did not hesitate in the slightest and directly left Misty Wave Mountain Villa with Chuyu. Sky Martial Continent, War God Palace. At this moment, the Lin family had already integrated into the Palace of Gods of War and started their new lives. As for the Palace of Gods of Ares, other than operating normally, it would also pay attention to the situation in Wanling Valley because that was where Lin Zhan was in seclusion. And on this day, Wanling Valley suddenly shone brightly like a rainbow, shining in the sky. This scene directly alarmed everyone in the War God Palace. Countless elders rushed over and were very shocked. Could it be that the palace master had come out of seclusion? As expected, Wanling Valley slowly opened, and a crack appeared on the defensive array outside. Then 2 figures walked out from inside. The person in front was a middle-aged man. He walked with majestic steps, and his gaze was dignified with a righteous aura. He was Lin Zhan. And beside him was a dignified and beautiful middle-aged woman. She was Lin Zhan's wife and also Lin Xian's mother. Their appearance caused a commotion in the War God Palace. Not only that, But old Master Lin and the others also rushed over excitedly. Soon, the group was reunited. However, Lin Zhan would not stay for long this time. He quickly arranged a few backup plans and was about to leave the Sky Martial continent. Two of the most important things were that he had raised Old Master Lin and second Uncle Lin's cultivation. It allowed them to directly enter the half-step king realm. Moreover, he had left behind a large amount of natural treasures to ensure that they could become true kings. Other than that, he had also left behind a clone. He had spent a lot of effort to cultivate this clone, thus it was a lot stronger than the previous clone he had. Its strength was about the same as the heavenly netherbird from before. With this clone's protection, no one would be able to touch the Lin family. After doing all this, Lin Zhan brought his wife and left the Sky Martial continent. With a wave of his hand, a jet-black spirit boat appeared. Then, the two of them boarded the spirit boat and turned into a black bolt of lightning as they charged into the endless sea. Danzong, a sect that focused on alchemists. Its status could be said to be one of the top after the clan of the ancients and the peerless sacred grounds. Its location was not in the Great Xian Empire, but it was not far away. Of course, it was not far away in comparison. Even for kings like Lin Xian and Chu Yu, they still flew for a total of 7 days. Along the way, Lin Xian looked around at the scenery of the mountains and was shocked. As expected of the eastern wilderness, a true great world. The mountains and rivers here were extremely magnificent. The mountains were majestic and connected to the cities, as if countless dragons were lying down. The river surged, and the river water surged, producing thunderous sounds. The spirit chi here was even denser than in the Sky Martial continent. Of course, not only was the spirit chi abundant, but there were also many dangers. During this period, Lin Xian had seen more than one king demonic beast appear. There was even one time that he felt a great pressure. It was an unknown demonic beast. It was extremely huge, and when it spread its wings, it covered the sky like a dark cloud. It had a terrifying and overflowing aura. Fortunately, Lin Xian and Chu Yu were not ordinary people. The two of them concealed their auras and hid in the cave below. Only then did they manage to escape. According to Chu Yu, this was an extremely terrifying king demonic beast. If one encountered it head-on, there was no chance of survival. Of course, this was not the strongest king demonic beast. It was said that some of the peerless king demonic beasts were extremely terrifying and could destroy a country with a raise of their hand. That was terrifying. Of course, that kind of terrifying existence usually did not come out. Moreover, on the side of the human race, there were various sacred grounds and ancient families. They would not allow that kind of demonic beast to harm the human world. 7 days later, Chu Yu and Lin Xian arrived near a mountain range. If we continue forward, we will be in the Dan Zone. Chu Yu looked at the majestic mountain range ahead and said with a smile, "Wait in the city at the foot of the mountain. I will go back and arrange for you to enter the sect. But let me say this first. With my strength, I can only let you enter as an ordinary disciple. Any higher and I will not be able to." "Ordinary disciple?" Lin Xian's eyes flashed. That was enough. Chapter 1550. An ordinary disciple? Lin Xian's eyes flashed. That's enough. As long as he could enter the Dan Zone, Lin Xian would be satisfied. After all, he had come with a mission. He didn't know much about the Niwa of Gojoseon, and he also didn't know much about the 10,000 bee sting. That was because the 10,000 bee sting had only been obtained after the Niwa of Gojoseon left the Dan Zone. So, what exactly had happened to the Niwa of Gojoseon in the Dan Zone? Why had he been killed in the Tianwu continent? Lin Xian had to find out all of this himself. Then, Chu Yu's figure flashed and flew directly to the Dan Zone. He first went to a city near the center of Dan Zone to wait. Lin Xian turned into a ray of sword light and flew quickly. However, he was extremely shocked. Near the Dan Zone, there were hundreds of cities densely packed together. It was like a small country. And this was only the periphery of the Dan Zone. In the depths of the mountain range, there were even more palaces and waterfalls. It was a celestial scene. Lin Xian withdrew his aura and quickly landed in a nearby city. He found an inn to rest. The next day, he received a letter from Qiyu. The matter had been settled. Qiyu gave him two choices. The first was to join the Danzong as a martial artist and be responsible for the sect's security. This was a good starting position, but it wouldn't be too high in the end. The second choice was to join the sect as an alchemist. However, this choice required Lin Xian to pass some tests. He could only join the sect after he passed the tests. Lin Xian didn't hesitate and directly chose the second choice. After all, he also wanted to see what was so special about the Danzong's alchemy techniques. He was also an alchemist, and he had never stopped practicing alchemy. At this moment, his alchemy skills had already reached the Grand Master realm, and he was able to refine Xian pills that surpassed the 9th grade. Only such profound pills were useful to King Realm cultivators, whereas the medicinal pills below the profound pill, even if it was a 9th grade medicinal pill, were extremely useless to King Realm cultivators. In addition to the letter, there was also a token that Lin Xian used to enter Danzong. With the token in hand, Lin Xian left the inn. Danzong was incomparably bright. The mountain range stretched as far as the eye could see. This was a colossus. It was a very powerful existence below the clan of the ancients and the peerless Holy Lands. Ordinary people would not dare to come here and behave atrociously. Of course, for those alchemists who wanted to join the Danzong, there was a special testing place. It was a valley at the foot of the mountain where dozens of palaces had been built. That place was used to test alchemists. When Danzong recruited disciples, they didn't look at one's current strength, but talent. The level of talent determined how far one could go in the future, and that was what Danzong valued the most. Of course, one had to have a certain foundation. Moreover, those who could come to Danzong to participate in the test were not ordinary people. However, no matter how extraordinary they were, they did not dare to act presumptuously in front of Danzong. At this moment, many people had gathered in the valley, and they were all waiting silently. Among these people, there were children of 7 or 8 years old, teenagers of 15 or 16 years old, and even youths in their 20s. There were even some elderly people among them. In any case, there were people of all ages. They all had a sincere heart, and wanted to join Danzong. Lin Xian also arrived in front of the valley, but he did not stop. Instead, he walked straight in. This scene immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding cultivators, and many people even started to whisper, "Who is this guy? He doesn't know the rules and dares to walk in directly? Yeah, he looks like a hothead. He'll definitely be killed if he goes in like this. Hee, that's good too. With one less competitor, my chances of entering the Pill Ancestor sect will be slightly higher." Sigh, yeah? Every year, there are some hotheads who don't care about Danzong's rules and barge in directly. I remember that a young man was here a while ago, and he even wanted to use force to barge in. In the end, he was sent flying with a punch. The crowd discussed animatedly as they looked at Lin Xian, their eyes filled with schadenfreude. At this moment, a cold voice came from the valley. "Stop! Who are you? How dare you be so rude? Danzong is not a place where you can enter as you wish. If you want to enter Danzong, not only do you have to have talent, you also have to have an opportunity. Kneel outside and wait. When your opportunity arrives, someone will let you in." Along with the voice came a figure. It was a young man in a robe. His eyes were filled with arrogance, as if he did not care about anyone. It could not be helped. These Danzong disciples had the right to be arrogant. That was because Danzong was a colossus in this place. It was an absolutely transcendent existence. In fact, many of the surrounding countries had to submit to Danzong. Behind the young man in the robe, there were countless figures flashing. Clearly, they were also Danzong disciples. If anyone dared to make a move, they would not hesitate to kill them. Lin Xian stopped in his tracks and narrowed his eyes. He took out the token and said slowly, "I'm here to take the test." The token was simple and unadorned. The word Dan was engraved on it. There was a red glow on its surface, and a fiery aura could be felt. This was Danzong's token. Outsiders could not forge it. The young man in the robe trembled when he saw the token. The arrogance on his face disappeared and was replaced by a solemn expression. He carefully took the token and said, "Wait here. I'll go and inform them." With that, the young man in the robe entered the valley again. As for the surrounding people, they began to whisper to each other. Some of them were even filled with shock. "What's going on? He wasn't killed?" "That's right. This isn't Danzong's style." "Could it be? What other background does this kid have?" The group of people discussed animatedly. They were very puzzled. However, not long after, the young man in the robe came out again. "You must be Lin Xian. Follow me. You are qualified to join Danzong, but we still have to test your aptitude." Hearing that, Lin Xian nodded. Chu Yu had already explained this to him. Therefore, he took a step forward and followed the young man in the robe. "What? He went in! He actually went in!" The people behind him widened their eyes when they saw this scene. They originally thought that Lin Xian would be killed, but they did not expect him to be invited in. This was indeed beyond their expectations. Heavens, who exactly is this kid? How could he enter Danzong so easily? Look at the token he took out earlier. It should be Danzong's token. This kid's background is definitely not simple. Everyone was extremely envious. Chapter 1551. The valley wasn't large, but it was surrounded by palaces. Furthermore, there were quite a few spirit medicines growing inside. Many of them didn't exist in the Tianwu continent. However, Lin Xian recognized them. This was because he had the inheritance of Lord Alcohol and Niwa of Gojoseon. Thus, he had a very precise grasp of the knowledge of these herbs. There was basically no herb that he didn't recognize. Soon, he entered a palace. This palace had a total of 6 floors. Each floor was filled with books. Lin Xian glanced at them and found that most of them were books on alchemy. There were recipes, identification of herbs, and medicinal effects. There were also flames, pill furnaces, and so on. In short, everything related to alchemy was here. It could be said that there was a wealth of knowledge. Finally, Lin Xian followed the pill-robed youth to the 5th floor. There was a middle-aged man sitting there. At this moment, he was holding an ancient book in his hand and carefully reading it. The book was slightly yellowed, and the pages were somewhat curly. It was obvious that it had been flipped through countless times. However, at this moment, the middle-aged man was holding it in his hand as if it were a treasure. Lin Xian looked ahead and was slightly surprised. This was because the flame aura on this person's body was very strong. It even surpassed the blue sky flames and the mysterious flame in Han Li's hand. There was no need to think about it. The other party should have grasped an extremely terrifying flame. In addition, he also felt an extremely powerful soul power from the other party. Even he was shocked by this soul force. The other party was definitely an alchemist, and a very terrifying one at that. He didn't expect to meet such a person as soon as he arrived in Danzong. "Martial uncle, I brought him," the pill-robed youth said respectfully. "Yes, I know," the middle-aged man in front of him said indifferently. However, he didn't immediately raise his head and continued to read the ancient book in his hand. The pill-robed youth respectfully left, leaving only Lin Xian behind. After a while, the middle-aged man raised his head and closed the ancient book in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the ancient book floated to the side of the bookshelf. Then, he picked up the command medallion on the table and asked with a flickering gaze, "You are Lin Xian?" "Yes." Lin Xian nodded. At this moment, he had already retracted his aura, making him look like an ordinary person. However, there was a very calm expression on his face. "Not bad. To be able to resist my pressure, it seems that your strength is definitely not ordinary. I heard about your situation from Chiyu. To be able to defeat Hanli, his battle prowess is truly astonishing. However, I'm very curious. If you were to enter the other sects, you would probably be treated very well. But why did you enter Danzong? At the end of his speech, his gaze became sharp, like two sharp swords that wanted to see through Lin Xian. But Lin Xian was still as calm as ever. The great dragon sword soul within his body quickly revolved, offsetting this pressure. Other than being a martial artist, I'm also an alchemist. Naturally, I want to join Danzong and learn more advanced alchemy techniques. An alchemist! The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes. To be honest, he couldn't believe that the other party was actually an alchemist. Prove it? Lin Xian nodded slightly. Then his soul power surged out. The middle-aged man was immediately shocked. He didn't expect that the other party's soul power would be so strong. Not bad. Normal people don't have such a strong soul. Kid, it seems that your talent is quite good. The middle-aged man nodded slightly and waved his hand. Suddenly, the wall in front of him flickered and quickly opened, revealing a painting. There were two yin-yang fishes, one white and one black. They blended together and were extremely profound. Take a closer look. How many changes can you see? As the middle-aged man's voice faded, the yin-yang diagram on the painting began to quickly spin. The black and white diagrams seemed to become black and white fishes that quickly swam away. 72. Lin Xian glanced at it and quickly said, "What about now?" The middle-aged man asked again. The yin-yang fishes in front of him were moving faster and faster. 360 types. 1800. 7200. 12,000 types. When Lin Xian said this number, the middle-aged man was stunned. He didn't expect the young man in front of him to be able to see so many changes. The yin-yang diagram in front of him was a treasure of the Danzong. It was very special. Although it didn't have much attacking power, it could be used to test a martial artist's soul power. The yin-yang fishes had thousands of changes. A martial artist could only capture the changes through their soul power. The stronger the soul power, the more changes one could capture. Generally speaking, seeing 3,600 changes was enough to enter the Danzong. With more than 5,000 changes, one would be considered a decent genius. Even better ones would see 7,000 to 8,000 changes. As for those with more than 10,000 changes, they would be considered a genius. This kind of person had extremely high soul power. It was impossible for normal martial artists to cultivate it. Unless the other party had a cultivation technique that specialized in soul power or consumed some heavenly treasure. It was even rarer to be able to see 12,000 changes as soon as one entered the sect. It could be said that there were very few people. Therefore, Lin Xian's soul power really shocked him. Your soul power isn't bad. What about your knowledge of spiritual herbs? The middle-aged man flicked his finger and 3 drops of liquid floated in the air. Can you tell what kind of spirit herbs these are made from? There are 42 types. There are purple spiral flowers, extreme spiritual herbs. Lin Xian said one by one with a calm expression. This made the middle-aged man even more shocked. His spiritual liquid was made with dozens of spiritual herbs. Normal people wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But this young man in front of him was able to recite them as if they were his family's treasures. It seemed that he was indeed an alchemist. Very good, you pass. The middle-aged man was very satisfied. With your talent and current strength, you can ignore the outer sect disciples and directly become an inner sect disciple. Thank you, senior. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, you can now go to the inner sect to report. The middle-aged man flipped his hand and took out a new token. He handed it to Lin Xian. This is your identity token. Engrave your soul power on it. Don't lose it. After saying this, the middle-aged man sat down again. With a wave of his hand, the books on the bookshelf in the distance seemed to be carried by a pair of invisible hands and floated over again. The middle-aged man ignored Lin Xian and continued to read the ancient books. As for Lin Xian, he took the new inner sect disciple token and left the hall. When he went out, he found that the red-robed young man from before was still waiting outside. Oh, how do I get to that door? Lin Xian asked. Inner sect. The red-robed young man heard this and suddenly raised his head. His eyes were full of shock. You entered the inner sect? Lin Xian nodded and took out the token. Suddenly, the red-robed young man sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Lin Xian as if he was looking at a monster. Chapter 1552. What's wrong? Is there something wrong? Lin Xian asked curiously. Senior brother, you're new here. You don't know what being an inner sect disciple means, the young man explained quickly. His attitude changed quickly, and he even addressed Lin Xian as senior brother. The disciples of the Danzong are divided into outer sect disciples, inner sect disciples, and core disciples. There are also personal disciples. However, there are very few personal disciples. There are only a few of them. Furthermore, the headmaster and the various elders no longer accept personal disciples. Therefore, personal disciples can be seen as special core disciples. From the outer sect to the inner sect, there is a threshold. Most of the outer sect disciples are free range, and they do some chores. They can be said to be the lowest level of the sect. But it's different for inner sect disciples. They are already considered elites. They enjoy a lot of resources and have the opportunity to listen to the teachings of the elders. It can be said that their treatment has improved a lot. However, it's very difficult to become an inner sect disciple. Every year, only a small number of outstanding outer sect disciples can become inner sect disciples. The competition is very fierce. Some people have been in the outer sect for more than 10 years, but they still haven't become inner sect disciples. Hearing this, Lin Xian nodded. He finally understood why this young man in front of him had such an attitude. He became an inner sect disciple the moment he entered. This starting point was far beyond everyone's imagination. Lin Xian nodded slightly, then asked, Then what's the deal with core disciples? Tell me more about it. Core disciples are the elites of the elites. It's even more difficult to become a core disciple from an inner sect disciple. Some people have been in the inner sect for more than 100 years, but they still can't become a core disciple. Core disciples have a lot of power. They even have the right to kill. There are even some very powerful core disciples who are not weaker than some elders. It's just that they haven't made any great contributions to the sect, so they can't be made elders. However, their strength is very terrifying. I see. Lin Xian nodded, indicating that he understood. It seemed that the identity of an inner sect disciple was not guaranteed. He had to get the identity of a core disciple as soon as possible so that he could better interact with the Danzong. After all, the Niwa of Gojoseon was something that happened hundreds of years ago. Ordinary disciples would never be able to come into contact with this kind of secret. Only those in the upper echelons would be able to obtain clues. The young man in the red robes led Lin Xian to the inner sect area, but didn't enter. He said to Lin Xian, Senior brother, I'm just an outer sect disciple. I can't enter the inner sect. You'll have to rely on yourself from now on. Okay. Lin Xian nodded and entered the inner sect alone. However, Lin Xian did not fumble around on his own. After entering the inner sect, there were specialized people to guide him. Very quickly, he was assigned to an independent courtyard. Every inner disciple could enjoy a mobile independent courtyard as their own residence. From the conversation, Lin Xian also learned that the treatment of core disciples was even better. They could even occupy a mountain peak and use it as their own residence. Some powerful core disciples could even enslave outer sect disciples and order inner sect disciples to do things for them. It could be said that he had a lot of power. Lin Xian chose a courtyard and stayed there. He did not act immediately. Instead, he cultivated silently to accumulate his strength. Just like that, he stayed in the inner sect. On the other hand, outside Danzong, there was a test going on for the past few days. Countless outer sect disciples were trying their best to enter the inner sect. Among them, there was a beautiful young girl who also wanted to take the test. The young girl was beautiful, but her expression was a little arrogant. She raised her chin like a proud little princess. At that moment, there were many young men around her. There are 10 spots to enter the inner sect this time. I'll definitely get one, the young girl said proudly. Of course. The surrounding warriors quickly flattered her. Beside her, there were a few arrogant disciples. They were also elites of the outer sect and were very confident of entering the inner sect. Among them, there was a young man in a red robe. He looked at the young girl and smiled. That's for sure. Sister Ting, we'll enter together. However, after entering the inner sect, you'll have to rely on your brother. When the time comes, don't forget about me. Hearing the compliments around her, the young girl called Fang Ting became even more proud. Of course. Don't worry, my brother is very powerful in the inner sect. After we enter, I'll ask him to take care of you. When the surrounding disciples heard that, they were envious. They knew that Fang Ting was very powerful. At such a young age, she had become a top outer sect disciple and was about to enter the inner sect. Not only that, she had an even more powerful brother who was in the inner sect. It could be said that no one dared to bully her. She would probably be a proud daughter of the heavens if she entered the inner sect. Everyone was discussing animatedly. However, at that moment, the results of the test were released. Immediately, everyone craned their necks and looked nervously. The young girl called Fang Ting also became nervous. To be honest, although she was quite talented, there were many people in the outer sect who were more talented and stronger than her. Therefore, she was not completely confident. However, when she saw that her name was ranked 10th, her delicate little face immediately revealed a smug smile. 10th. Although it was a little worse than she had imagined, she was still very satisfied. That was because she knew that there were only 10 spots to enter the inner sect this time. In other words, as long as she entered the top 10, she would definitely be able to enter the inner sect. Ha ha! That's great! I've finally entered the inner sect! One after another, exclamations of surprise sounded. Obviously, these were the top 10 disciples. Soon, the outer sect elder walked over quickly with a scroll in his hand. As for Fang Ting and the other top 10 disciples, they all had smug smiles on their faces as they quickly walked out and stood in front. They knew that it was time to announce the results. Sure enough, the outer sect elder slowly said, "Next, I will announce your candidates to enter the inner sect. Huan Kai Zhao Dong. Qin Feng." The outer sect elder read out 9 names in a row. They were all disciples ranked in the top 9. Fang Ting listened with a smug expression. However, when it was her turn, she suddenly stopped. The outer sect elder slowly put away the scroll and said in a deep voice, "From today onwards, the 9 of you will be inner sect disciples. After entering the inner sect, you must cultivate well. You must not slack off." "Yes, disciple obeys." Qin Feng and the other 9 disciples nodded respectfully. The surrounding crowd was in an uproar. What was going on? There were only 9 people. Why were there only 9? Fang Ting quickly said, "Elder, why didn't you read my name?" Chapter 1553. What's going on? There are only 9 people. Why are there only 9? Everyone was puzzled and puzzled. Fang Ting quickly said, "Elder, why didn't you read my name?" After the outer sect elder heard that, he said in a deep voice, "There are only 9 spots to enter the inner sect this time, so only the top 9 will be chosen." 9? How is that possible? Fang Ting looked anxious. Didn't we say that there were a total of 10 spots? Why is there one less? That's right, Elder. Haven't the spots been decided before? Qin Feng, who had become an inner sect disciple, was also puzzled. There were indeed 10 spots before, but a few days ago, a disciple came to join Danzong and became an inner sect disciple directly. So naturally, there will be one less spot for you. What? Someone became an inner sect disciple directly? Hearing this, everyone was shocked. One had to know that they knew the rules of Danzong. Usually, those who came were outer sect disciples. It was rare to hear someone become an inner sect disciple directly. Impossible! Damn it, how is that possible? Fang Ting screamed. She was originally full of confidence, and thought that she would definitely be able to enter the inner sect this time. However, she did not expect that something like this would happen. This is against the rules. I'm in the top 10, so I should enter the inner sect, Fang Ting said quickly. However, the outer sect elder snorted coldly. Noisy! Is this a place for you to behave atrociously? This is the sect's decision. What are you unhappy about? At the end of his sentence, his voice was extremely cold, and even emitted a powerful aura. No, no! Feeling this aura, Fang Ting was scared silly and quickly knelt on the ground. Seeing this, the outer sect elder said in a deep voice, with your talent, you will definitely be able to enter the inner sect next time after cultivating for a period of time. This time, you can go back first. After saying that, he waved his hand and took Qing Feng and the other 9 inner sect disciples away. Only the shocked crowd was left. Damn it, this is too despicable. I have to find out who replaced me. I'm going to tear him into pieces. Fang Ting knelt on the ground and screamed crazily. The surrounding martial artists felt their scalps go numb. That was because they knew that the disciple who became an inner disciple was going to be in trouble. Fang Ting's brother was an extremely terrifying figure in the inner sect. With him around, he could kill anyone. For the past few days, Lin Xian had been cultivating in his room, but he would come out from time to time. In the vicinity of his courtyard, there were many spiritual herbs that he needed to take care of. He would hand over 70% of these spiritual herbs to the sect, and the remaining 30% would be his reward. This was an inner disciple. If he wanted to be promoted to a core disciple, he would only need to pay half of it. In the past few days, while Lin Xian was taking care of the spirit herbs, he also got to know some of the surrounding inner sect disciples. They were familiar with each other. One day, while Lin Xian was cultivating, someone suddenly knocked on his door. Lin Xian immediately opened his eyes. He stood up and opened the door. The person who knocked on the door was his neighbor. He was also an inner disciple, and his name was Zhou Hai. In addition to Zhou Hai, there were 2 or 3 other figures, all of whom were inner disciples nearby. What's the matter? Lin Xian asked. Usually, no one would disturb him during the day. Now that the other party was here, it meant that something had happened. There's a mission for us. Mission? Hearing that, Lin Xian frowned. He naturally knew that to become a disciple of the Danzong, he had to complete some sect missions. However, he did not expect that the mission would come so soon. Yes, it's like this. The cities near us have been losing spirit herbs recently. Sometimes, there are even obvious riots. It's obvious that it's man-made. According to various investigations, we finally found out that it's the people from the 10,000 Poisons sect. Now, the sect has issued a mission to kill the people from the 10,000 Poisons sect. Many inner sect disciples have already taken action because the reward this time is too good. Every time you kill a martial artist from the 10,000 Poisons sect, you can get 1 sect contribution. 10 sect contribution points can be exchanged for a high-grade alchemy book, or a top-grade spiritual herb. Those spirit herbs are not the ones we planted. They are all extremely precious. Every one of them is worth a lot. It seems that the sect is really angry this time. Yes, especially those high-level alchemy books. Even the core disciples are tempted. I think many of them will go now. We want to go too, so we came to call you. How about it? Do you want to go together? Zhou Hai and the others asked. Okay, let's go take a look. Lin Xian nodded. He had nothing to do anyway. He could also get some spirit herbs and alchemy books by killing some of the people from the 10,000 Poisons sect. He was happy. All of Lin Xian's belongings were on him, so there was nothing much to pack. He left with Zhou Hai and the others and flew to the city at the foot of the mountain. At the same time, Fang Ting was also contacting her brother in the inner sect through letters. Fang Li, Fang Ting's brother, was also an inner sect disciple. Moreover, he was a very powerful inner sect disciple. It could be said that everyone in the inner sect knew of Fang Li. When he found out that his sister's spot had been taken, and she could not enter the inner sect, his face immediately darkened. Investigate! Who took my sister's spot? Fang Li said coldly to a few of his underlings beside him. Don't worry, young Master Fang. We'll investigate now. These followers were also inner sect disciples. They quickly went out to investigate. Soon they returned. We found some information. That kid is called Lin Xian. He came 5 days ago. He did become an inner sect disciple directly, but we can't find out the reason. How strong is that kid? Fang Li asked in a deep voice. I don't know about his alchemy skills, but according to those who have seen him, he's only a 1-star king. 1-star king? Hearing this, Fang Li's frown deepened. The people around him sneered. How can he become an inner sect disciple directly with such a weak cultivation? Could that kid be an alchemy genius? Impossible. If he's really an alchemy genius, we should have known the moment he came in. But now, he's keeping a low profile. I'm afraid there's something fishy going on. Fang Li snorted. No matter who he is or how he came in, he must pay the price for taking my sister's spot. Let's go. Let's see what that Lin Xian is capable of. Fang Li snorted, then ran toward Lin Xian's courtyard. Along with him were a few other inner disciples from before. Chapter 1554. Along the way, many inner sect disciples saw this and their expressions changed. Isn't that Fang Li? Why does he look so pale? Where are they going? They don't look friendly. Oh my God, someone dares to provoke Fang Li? Isn't he afraid of death? I heard that someone took Fang Li's sister's place in the inner sect. I think Fang Li is going to find trouble with the other party. What? Is there such a thing? I think so. There is indeed a new disciple in the inner sect. I think his name is Lin Xian. Look at them, they are indeed going to Lin Xian's courtyard. The surrounding inner sect disciples are whispering. When they saw this, they followed them. Fang Li and his group stopped in front of Lin Xian's courtyard. This is the place? Fang Li looked ahead with a cold gaze. Yes, young Master Fang, this is the place. Wait, I'll get that kid to come out, one of the inner sect disciples said. Then, he took a step forward and shouted coldly. Lin, get out here! His voice was like thunder. It turned into a sharp sword and quickly spread inside. However, it was quiet inside. There was no response at all, let alone a person. Humph! How dare you put on airs in front of me? Seeing that there was no response, the inner sect disciple was very unhappy. He snorted coldly and waved his sleeve. Suddenly, a powerful force pushed forward. With a boom, the door and wall in front of him exploded. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. Is he going to do it himself? However, after waiting for a while, no one came out. Soon, a few inner sect disciples entered the courtyard at lightning speed and checked it out. Then, they came out and said, Young Master Fang, there is no one inside. No one? Hearing this, Fang Li frowned and asked coldly, Do any of you know where that kid went? Whoever provides me with the clue, I'll give him a top-notch spiritual herb. Immediately, someone ran out and said, That kid with the surname Lin went to take a mission. The one from the 10,000 Poison Sect. A mission from the 10,000 Poison Sect? Hearing this, Fang Li narrowed his eyes and a cold smile appeared on his face. Then, with a flip of his palm, he took out a stalk of spirit grass and threw it to the man. How dare you take my younger sister's spot? No matter where you run, you won't be able to escape death. It just so happens that I'm also going to accept the mission from the 10,000 Poison Sect. I'll take care of that brat while I'm at it. Fang Li sneered and left with his men. Upon seeing this, the surrounding inner disciples shook their heads and sighed. Sigh, that Lin Xian is too unlucky. He actually offended Fang Li, that's right. With Fang Li's strength and methods, that kid definitely won't be able to gain any advantage. That's not all. If they meet him outside this time, that kid might lose his life. When the time comes, Fang Li will kill that kid and push the blame to the 10,000 Poison Sect. Even if the sect finds out anything, they won't care. Forget it. This matter has nothing to do with us. Let's not bother about it. The group of people left one after another. At the foot of the mountain, Cities surrounded the mountain like stars. Although only a few days had passed, Lin Xian discovered that the appearance of this place had changed. Among them, many cities had been attacked. The city walls had collapsed, the houses were damaged, and deep holes had appeared on the ground. Not only that, but there was also a green mist in the surroundings that contained a deadly poison. Even kings had to be careful when dealing with it. According to Zhou Tian's introduction, this was a unique technique of the 10,000 Poisons sect. This green mist was extremely terrifying. It was condensed from many king-level demonic beasts. It could be said that it was extremely powerful. Anyone below the king level would definitely die if they touched it. As for king-level cultivators, if they accidentally inhaled it, they would lose a lot of their strength and might even be heavily injured. Therefore, they had to be careful when fighting against the 10,000 Poisons sect. Damn, these people from the 10,000 Poisons sect are really despicable. Yeah. Just this poisonous mist alone has consumed a lot of my spiritual energy. If we weren't kings, we probably wouldn't have been able to stay in this poisonous mist for too long. An inner disciple's face was gloomy. Obviously, the poisonous mist in the surroundings was a huge burden on him. These people were Lin Xian and the others. They had appeared in the city. Among them, Zhou Hai looked at Lin Xian's calm expression and asked in confusion, "Brother Lin, could it be that you're not affected at all? Heavens, your spiritual energy is too strong, isn't it?" Indeed, there were countless sword chi revolving around Lin Xian's body. Every sword chi was extremely sharp, and the poisonous mist couldn't get close to him at all. Zhou Hai and the others also used their own methods, but their expressions weren't as calm as Lin Xian's. Among them, Zhou Hai and another disciple called Jiang Song were the strongest. Both of them were 2-star kings. The remaining 2 were late-stage 1-star kings. The 4 of them walked carefully, while Lin Xian checked the surroundings. "By the way, Brother Lin, are you a swordsman? This sword chi is too sharp, isn't it?" While the others were still envious, Lin Xian frowned and said in a deep voice, "I seem to have found something strange." "Strange? What is it?" Zhou Hai and the others were puzzled. They were also alchemists, and their soul power was very strong. However, they didn't find anything strange at all. However, looking at Lin Xian's expression, it didn't seem like he was faking it. Therefore, they were very puzzled. "Let's go, follow me." With a wave of his hand, Lin Xian dashed forward. Although Zhou Hai and the others were puzzled, they still followed him. Soon, they left the city and entered the primeval forest. After flying for a while, Lin Xian's body swayed and flew down. Seeing this, Zhou Hai and the others also descended. Then, they widened their eyes in disbelief, because there were countless corpses on the ground. However, most of the corpses had turned into white bones, and the remaining ones were rotting. Obviously, they were all poisoned to death. "These are the warriors from those cities. It seems that they have fought with the 10,000 Poisons sect." The others gasped. The distance was too far. Ordinary people couldn't sense it at all. Even they couldn't sense it. However, Lin Xian seemed to have known it all along. Just how strong was his soul force? Lin Xian looked at the scene and frowned. What a strong poison! Not only had the corpses rotted, but the entire ground had also turned into a land of death. There was no trace of life. Furthermore, the poisonous gas would spread out and gradually fuse into the void to form a poisonous fog. It wouldn't be long before the whole place became a land of death. Not even a blade of grass would grow. Zhou Hai frowned. He summoned a white mouse from his king's domain and fed it a pill. Suddenly, the white mouse shone brightly. Its black little nose twitched as if it was looking for something. Then, it ran forward like a bolt of lightning. Chapter 1555. Zhou Hai was overjoyed and called out, "Brother Lin, come quickly! We've found their tracks." "You've found their tracks?" Lin Xian was also surprised. He didn't expect Fang Ping to have such a trick up his sleeve. His figure flashed, and he followed behind. At this moment, the crimson dragon in his sleeve explained. This is a spirit-seeking mouse. It's a very intelligent beast with a very developed sense of smell. It can track people down. So that's how it is. Lin Xian nodded. He finally understood how Fan Ping was able to find the 10,000 poison sex tracks. In front of them was a continuous mountain range. The peaks were thousands of feet high and looked like divine swords standing on the ground. When Lin Xian and the others arrived, they found that the spirit-seeking mouse was no longer flying. It seemed to have lost its way. What's going on? We lost them? Zhou Hai frowned. Obviously, he didn't expect his trick to fail. Lin Xian also frowned. He used his soul power to investigate, but he didn't find anyone around. However, he felt uneasy. At this moment, the Crimson Dragon transmitted. Kid, be careful. I'm afraid it's a trap. Lin Xian nodded and was about to say something. However, all of a sudden, countless black shadows appeared all around them and surrounded them like ghosts. Sinister laughter resounded in the surroundings. It was like the laughter of evil spirits, causing one's scalp to go numb. Who is it? Come out! Zhou Hai and the others shouted. At the same time, their bodies shone with light to defend themselves. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes in surprise. Good trick! He didn't even detect their presence. It seems that these people from the 10,000 Poison sect have some unusual tricks up their sleeves. Haha, I didn't expect it to be a few kids. You actually dared to chase us here. I have to say, you're really bold. A cold voice sounded. Oh no, it's the 10,000 Poison sect. Zhou Hai's face changed. Everyone be careful. Then he roared. Humph, remnants of the 10,000 Poison sect, you've harmed the common people. How dare you come near my Danzong? You're courting death. I didn't expect you to be from Danzong. If that's the case, then all the more reason I can't let you live. Before he finished speaking, a green shadow flew out quickly. That green light is too terrifying. It's covering the sky and covering the earth. It's like a raging sea. It's heading straight for Zhou Hai. Scram! Zhou Hai roared and punched out. The fiery red fist carried a resplendent light that illuminated the surroundings as it quickly slammed into the green light. Boom! A terrifying sound rang out. More than half of the green light was melted by the fiery red fist. However, Zhou Hai did not have it easy either. He took 5 steps back, and the blood in his body was boiling. There was nothing he could do about it. That green attack was simply too terrifying. It wasn't powerful, but its strength was strange, and it even carried poisonous gas. Fortunately, he had been careful in defending himself, so the other party didn't succeed. I didn't expect you to be so strong. You actually survived my green demonic hand? But kid, don't be too proud. I only used half of my strength just now. This time, I'll use my full strength. Let's see if you can still block it. The cold voice rang out again, with a strong sense of mockery. Then, an extremely violent energy surged out and slammed towards Zhou Hai. Zhou Hai's face changed drastically. The previous attack was still too much for him to handle. However, now that the other party had used his full strength, the aura made him feel suffocated. Seeing that Zhou Hai was about to be swallowed by the green palm, Lin Xian made his move at this critical moment. He waved his hand, and a huge sword chi quickly formed. It shone brightly like a divine rainbow and quickly slashed forward. A terrifying murderous aura shot up to the sky. Boom! In an instant, the green palm was cut off by the sword chi. Not only that, the poisonous gas that filled the sky was also completely eliminated. Thank you, Brother Lin! Seeing that Lin Xian had repelled the other party, Zhou Hai heaved a sigh of relief and thanked him gratefully. The others were also extremely shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian's battle prowess to be so powerful. At this moment, the cold voice rang out again. I didn't expect there to be another expert. But kid, since you dared to offend me, you're definitely dead this time. The sound wave turned into a green ocean and spread out in all directions, bringing with it a strange poisonous gas. Damn the 10,000 Poison sect! Zhou Hai gritted his teeth, then quickly took out a few pills and distributed them to Lin Xian and the others. This is the green spirit pill. It can cure hundreds of poisons. Take it and you can resist the poison of the 10,000 poison sect. Lin Xian took it and smelled it. Then, he nodded slightly and swallowed the pill. However, Zhou Hai and the others did not look too good. This was because from the previous attack, the other party was at least a 3-star king. They had no way of resisting such an expert. However, they were more shocked by Lin Xian's strength. Brother Lin, are you a 3-star king? Did you hide your strength? They asked in bewilderment. Lin Xian smiled and shook his head. No, I just used some secret techniques. However, it's not difficult to resist a 3-star king. Humph! You're really boasting shamelessly. The cold voice rang out again. It's not difficult to resist a 3-star king? Kid, it seems like you don't know your limits. Fine, I'll kill you today and let you know the power of a 3-star king. As these words were spoken, countless figures appeared in the surroundings. A middle-aged man walked out from the front. He was wearing a blue robe, and his face was pale and beardless. His eyes were long and narrow, and they were filled with coldness. His eyes were jade green and had an extremely ferocious gaze. This middle-aged man was the one who had attacked earlier. He was also a 3-star king. Behind him stood dozens of 10,000 poison sect nobles, ranging from 2-star kings to 9th heaven venerables. What? So many people! Zhou Hai and the others felt their scalps go numb. They were already no match for a 3-star king, let alone the 10,000 poison sect martial artists behind him. Are we really going to die here this time? Don't panic. Hold them back. The people around here should be Danzong's disciples. Another disciple quickly sent a voice transmission. Then, he waved his hand and flicked a red pill into the sky. Then, it exploded and formed a cloud of mist. This was the communication signal between Danzong's disciples. It could be used to call for help. Now that it had been used, it could probably be seen from hundreds of miles away. However, the middle-aged man in blue robes laughed sinisterly. He waved his hand, and countless green lights surged out of his body and rushed into the sky, enveloping the red mist. Hee, you want to call for help? It's useless. Today is the day you die. Damn it! Zhou Hai and the others' expressions changed drastically when they saw this. On the other hand, Lin Xian's gaze was dark. Although the signal for help had been blocked, these people were not much of a threat to him. As long as he attacked with his full strength, he could kill all of them. That was exactly what he was thinking. The great dragon sword soul in his body circulated, and an aura was about to be released. At this moment, a long roar suddenly came from afar. It was like a sudden clap of thunder, rolling over. Chapter 1556. The voice was extremely terrifying. Not only did Zhou Hai and the others' expressions change, but even the middle-aged man from the 10,000 poison sect looked gloomy. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. This energy was too terrifying. It seemed to have surpassed that of a 3-star king. Could it be a 4-star king? Thinking of this, Lin Xian frowned. He didn't attack again. Instead, he watched quietly. Even a 4-star king was difficult for him now. If the other party was from the 10,000 poison sect, then he could only leave with Zhou Hai and the others. Soon, the figure arrived and floated in the sky. He was like a god of war, looking down. It was a youth with a cold expression. His eyes were like lightning, making people's hearts tremble. A fiery red cauldron floated above his head. 2 fire dragons were carved on it, circling around each other. Humph! How dare the 10,000 poison sect behave so atrociously near my Danzong? You really don't know what's good for you. The mysterious youth's cold voice sounded. Who are you? Below, the middle-aged man from the 10,000 poison sect had a grave expression. The martial artists behind him also frowned. They could feel how powerful the other party's aura was. Danzong's core disciple, Lu Chao. The mysterious youth said coldly. I've already answered your question. You can die now. In the sky, the mysterious youth waved his hand. Immediately, the red cauldron above him emitted a bright light. It was like a sea of fire, and it was rapidly rolling down. Countless flames soared into the sky, piercing through the sea of clouds and instantly enveloping all the martial artists from the 10,000 poison sect. Ah! Miserable screams rang out. The martial artists from the 10,000 poison sect tried their best to resist. However, it was useless. Even the blue-robed middle-aged man used his king's domain to try and escape. However, Lu Chao coldly snorted. He pointed his finger, and flames soared into the sky, turning into a fire dragon that instantly swallowed the middle-aged man. In an instant, all the martial artists from the 10,000 poison sect were killed. Even the surrounding poison gas was evaporated by the sea of fire, leaving not a trace behind. Amazing! They were all killed in an instant! Zhou Hai and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. Lin Xian was also extremely surprised. His opponent's strength had exceeded his expectations. He was indeed an expert. Most likely, his strength had already surpassed that of a 3-star king. Furthermore, from the other party's words, he seemed to be a core disciple. Is this the strength of a core disciple? Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and carefully sized up his opponent. Greetings, senior brother! Zhou Hai and the others shouted respectfully. At this time, the sound of something breaking through the air came from afar. A few silhouettes flew over at lightning speed. They were all young people wearing Danzong uniforms. It seemed like they were also Danzong disciples. This time, there were a total of 5 or 6 people, both men and women, and their strength was not weak. When these people arrived and saw the scene below, Jing immediately smiled and said, Senior Marshal Brother Lu is indeed powerful. He killed nearly 110,000 poison sect's martial artists with a raise of his hand. Such means are heaven-defying. That was because Senior Brother Lu was also a very powerful existence among the core disciples. However, these people from the 10,000 poison sect were too despicable. How dare they come to Danzong and behave so atrociously? Moreover, from the looks of it, there were quite a few of them. Could it be that they were plotting something? The new disciples quickly conversed. At this time, the core disciple called Lu Chao looked down and said in a deep voice, Are you all inner disciples? Yes, Zhou Hai said quickly. Thank you for your help, Senior Marshal Brother Lu. Lu Chao nodded and said again, You should go back. This time, the 10,000 poison sect's strength is formidable. You can't fight against them. Okay, we'll go back now. Zhou Hai and the others nodded. They knew that Lu Chao was right. This time, the 10,000 poison sect's strength was very strong, and they had a large number of people. It would be very dangerous for them to stay here. Lin Xian, let's go. Zhou Hai looked to the side and said quickly, Okay. Lin Xian nodded and turned to leave. However, at this time, a young man in the sky frowned and asked coldly, Lin Xian? You're the new inner disciple Lin Xian? There was a hint of coldness in his voice. Lin Xian stopped and looked back. Zhou Hai and the others were also puzzled and stopped. He looked back and saw a handsome man standing there. However, his eyes were very cold and even had a hint of killing intent. This made him very confused. The other party wanted to kill him, but he didn't know him at all. At this time, the other disciples asked, Family, what's going on? Do you know him? It's nothing, just some personal matters. Family explained. Then, he looked to the front and said respectfully, Senior Marshal Brother Lu, I have some matters to settle. I'd like to stay here for a while. Okay. Lu Chao nodded. Then, his body flashed and he turned into a rainbow and left. It seemed that he was going to hunt down the other 10,000 poison sect martial artists. When the remaining people saw this, they also followed behind. At this time, only Fan Li was left in the sky. Suddenly, Fan Li's body sank and he landed on the ground. Opposite him, Zhou Hai and the others frowned. They couldn't understand why Fan Li would stay. However, judging from his eyes, it couldn't be anything good. Therefore, they hurriedly sent a voice transmission. Brother Lin, be careful. Fang Li is a big shot in the intersect, but he's not to be trifled with. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He really didn't know what Fang Li's intentions were. This was because he hadn't interacted with anyone in the past few days in Danzong. It was impossible for him to have a grudge with anyone. In front of him, Fang Li sneered. Lin Xian, how dare you steal my sister's spot? Your sister? Lin Xian frowned even harder. He didn't know this guy's sister at all. Ridiculous. Lin Xian snorted and turned to leave. He didn't have time to waste with someone like this. Trying to leave? Fang Li sneered from behind. Then, his body flashed and he appeared in front of everyone, blocking their way. At the same time, a terrifying aura surged from his body. It was very sharp. Fang Li, what are you doing? I'm warning you, don't mess around. Zhou Hai said quickly. Mess around? Who do you think you are? How dare you control me? Get lost. Fang Li snorted and threw a punch. Instantly, Zhou Hai was pushed back. Bang! 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 Zhou Hai was pushed back, cracking the ground. His expression was very ugly. When the others saw this, they also roared angrily. Fang Li, although you're a 3-star challenger, we're not weak either. If you push us too far, we'll fight to the death. Fight to the death? Just the few of you? You're not worthy of me killing you. Fang Li said coldly. As long as you get lost and don't interfere, I won't kill you. However, I won't let this guy go today. Then, he stared coldly at Lin Xian again. Chapter 1557. Lin Xian frowned when he saw this. Do I know you? You don't know me, but my sister could have entered the intersect, but you took her spot. Tell me, how can I let you go? So that's what happened. Zhou Hai and the others' faces darkened when they heard this, but Lin Xian understood. He did become an intersect disciple directly, but it was the sect's decision and had nothing to do with him. As for taking Fang Li's sister's spot, he had no idea. But now, the other party didn't explain at all and just showed killing intent towards him. This was completely looking down on him. However, Lin Xian was not afraid of a mere 3-star king. So, he said coldly, becoming an intersect disciple is the sect's decision. If you have any opinions, you can tell the sect directly. It's useless to talk to me. Of course, if you insist on finding trouble with me, I don't mind teaching you a lesson. Teach me a lesson? Fang Li was stunned, then he sneered. Haha, what a shameless boast. Kid, I think water must have entered your brain. How dare you say such a thing? He sneered disdainfully. As far as he was concerned, Lin Xian was only a 1-star king round cultivator. Such a person definitely wouldn't be strong. Fang Li was a 3-star king, an extremely powerful existence among the intersect disciples. He had many secret techniques in his hands, and he also had a very unique flame. It could be said that he was incomparably powerful. He only needed to move his finger, and he would be able to squash the other party to death. However, Fang Li still dared to boast about teaching him a lesson. What a joke! Kid, I don't care what background you have, and I don't know how you entered the intersect. Since you dared to take my sister's spot, you must die. Remember, in your next life, be careful. Don't provoke people you can't afford to provoke. Fang Li's voice was cold. Boundless killing intent surged from his body, forming a murderous aura that pierced through heaven and earth. What? You dare to kill? Fang Li, don't you know the sect rules? Zhou Hai roared. Danzong's sect rules state that disciples of the same sect are not allowed to kill each other. So, even if there was a grudge, it was usually just a lesson. But now, Fang Li wants to kill Lin Xian. This is too shocking. What's the big deal? A bunch of idiots. Anyway, you are here for a mission. Even if you can't return, others will think that you were killed by the 10,000 poison sect. So they won't suspect me. Kid, go to hell's die. Fang Li roared angrily and charged towards Lin Xian. It was a terrifying martial art right from the start. Purple Tiger Beast Fire. A ball of purple flames appeared on Fan Li's body, burning fiercely and releasing a terrifying aura. This flame was refined demons. Fan Li was refined demon. Now that Fan Li was using it, it was even more terrifying. Purple Tiger transform form Fan S. Tiger. Single quote, TT. It was as if a real demon's king was emitting a terrifying aura. Wherever it passed, the void would quickly crumble. In an instant, it was in front of Lin Xian. On the other hand, Lin Xian's figure flashed, and his speed was like that of a ghost. He instantly disappeared from where he stood and appeared on the other side. He dodged it? Seeing this, Zhou Hai and the others were overjoyed. But in the next moment, they exclaimed. They realized that the purple tiger did not disappear. Instead, it pounced on Lin Xian again. The monstrous flames caused the void to distort incomparably. It's useless. Kid, you can't escape. This is my origin source flame. It won't stop until I kill you. Fan Li sneered from afar. Although Lin Xian's speed surprised him, he did not care. He was very confident in himself. On the other hand, Zhou Hai and the others were worried. Damn Fan Li. This guy really wanted to kill Lin Xian. Lin Xian would be in danger. If that's the case, don't blame me. Lin Xian stopped dodging. Instead, he attacked quickly. He was not afraid of trouble. Since the other party wanted to kill him, he had to kill the other party to prevent future trouble. Azure Dragon Break. A black demonic sword appeared in his hand. Then, he stabbed with it. This was a move that he had just learned. When he used it, its power was terrifying. The sword chi surged and turned into a black dragon. It roared and surged. The black dragon shone like a real divine dragon. It stirred up thousands of waves and moved quickly in the void. There were countless sword radiances on his body. They pierced through the sea of clouds. Boom! The black sword chi collided with the purple tiger's shadow. There was an earth-shattering explosion. The terrifying energy shook heaven and earth. However, the explosion disappeared in an instant. All the energy, including the purple tiger, was destroyed by the black sword chi and disappeared without a trace. Zhou Hai and the others had already retreated to a distance to watch the battle. They could not resist the energy at all. What? He blocked it? How is that possible? Fan Li was shocked. He could not believe it. Fan Li was only a 1-star king. He was a 3-star king. The difference in strength between the two was like heaven and earth. But he actually managed to block his attack? How is that possible? He can't believe it. In the distance, Zhou Hai and the others were also shocked. Although they had seen Lin Xian fight against the 10,000 poison sex experts, they thought that it was a secret technique that would not last long. But now, Lin Xian was able to block Fan Li's attack with ease. This made them extremely shocked. They even discovered that this was not something that could be achieved through secret arts. Perhaps Lin Xian was truly powerful. Thinking of this, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Fan Li's expression was terrifyingly gloomy. His eyes were like lightning as he stared ahead. Damn it, that's impossible! How did you do it? Could it be that you took some pill that stimulated energy? Yes, that must be it. Otherwise, how could you block my attack? As an alchemist, he naturally knew about this kind of pill that could instantly increase a martial artist's strength. However, it would cause great damage to the body. In his opinion, Lin Xian must have taken such a pill to be able to fight against him. It's just a pill that uses external force. How can it compare to me? Next, I'll let you know my true strength. Fan Li comforted himself. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. Shameless idiot! With that, his body flashed, and he charged forward again. The 9 darkness demonic sword in his hand emitted a monstrous power. He swung it down quickly, and it exploded like thunder. The terrifying sword light slashed toward Fan Li. Chapter 1558. You are courting death! Fan Li was enraged. He did not expect Lin Fan to take the initiative to attack him. This was undoubtedly a provocation. Thousand Beasts Fist! He waved his fists, and countless purple flames danced. They formed thousands of fist shadows and charged toward Lin Xian. Every fist was the size of a mountain. They carried a monstrous force and shattered the void. Bang! 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 The sword chi and fist shadows collided, and the violent energy destroyed the entire sky. However, Lin Xian's sword chi was too powerful. The 9 darkness demonic swords slashed down like a death scythe and sliced all the fist shadows apart. In an instant, the purple flames in the sky were extinguished, and nothing was left. However, the black sword chi charged toward Fan Li again. Before the sword chi landed, the terrifying murderous intent pierced through the void. What? How is this possible? Fan Li was scared out of his wits when he saw this. That was his ultimate skill. How could it be so easily broken by someone else? He could not believe it. When he felt the chilling murderous intent, his heart raced. At this moment, he finally knew that Lin Fan was stronger than him. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and retreated quickly like a purple ray of light. What? He retreated. Fan Li retreated. In the distance, Zhou Hai and the rest widened their eyes in disbelief when they saw this. Fan Li was a true 3-star king and was extremely powerful. Everyone in the inner sect knew about him. Moreover, his flame was even more terrifying. It was at the Demon King level. But now, Fan Li had actually retreated, and from the looks of it, he was in such a sorry state. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. Fan Li retreated quickly like a purple rainbow. However, the black sword chi was even more violent and faster. Not only that, the black sword chi had already firmly locked onto him. It was like a black dragon roaring in the air. Fan Li could not dodge it. At this critical moment, Fan Li gritted his teeth and quickly took out a purple cauldron to block the black sword chi. Clang! The sound of metal clashing was heard and the entire void cracked. Although Fan Li used the purple cauldron to block the sword chi, the powerful force still sent him flying and smashed a few mountains. Fan Li screamed crazily as blood splattered everywhere. Impossible! This is impossible! Damn it, how did you do it? He was truly crazy. Beside him was a sea of purple flames, which formed a king's domain, burning the mountains, trees, and forests. His face was hideous, like a demon. He didn't dare to believe it. However, Lin Xian was like a flickering shadow, instantly appearing beside him. The demonic sword in his hand quickly stabbed down. Pun! Fan Li was sent flying again. God knows how many of his bones were broken. This time, he received serious internal injuries and could barely get up. However, when he saw Lin Xian walking towards him again, he immediately screamed. Because he realized that the other party really wanted to kill him. Stop! Damn it! You dare to kill me? Do you know who I am? Fan Li screamed. Lin Xian snorted coldly. What does it have to do with me who you are? I don't know you, yet you came to kill me for no reason at all? Do you think I'll let you go? Hearing this, Fan Li's face turned ugly. He quickly said, I was wrong about what happened before. I'll apologize to you. Can you let me go? In the distance, Zhou Hai and the others couldn't believe their ears. The arrogant Fan Li was begging for mercy? This was simply too unbelievable. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. I don't like to leave threats behind, so you must die. Then, he slowly raised the 9 darkness demonic sword. You're courting death, kid! Don't you know that I'm senior brother Lu Chao's man? If you dare to touch me, senior brother Lu Chao won't let you go. Fan Li roared crazily as if he had gone mad. Hearing this, Zhou Hai and the others were shocked. They didn't expect Fan Li to be on Lu Chao's side. One had to know that Lu Chao was a core disciple, and his cultivation had reached the 4-star king level. He was extremely terrifying. If he was angry, he could kill any inner disciple in front of everyone without being punished by the faction. It could be said that in their eyes, Lu Chao was a supreme existence. Lin Xian furrowed his brows. He had already witnessed the methods of that core disciple, Lu Chao. Seeing Lin Xian hesitate, Fang Li sneered again. How about it, kid? Are you scared now? Kneel down and kowtow to me now, and I might spare your life. Otherwise, when I tell Senior Brother Lu Chao, you'll die. Shut up! Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a wave of his sword, he chopped off Fang Li's head. Poof! Blood spurted out as Fang Li fell. Even in death, he couldn't believe that Lin Xian would dare to kill him. Wasn't he afraid of the revenge of the core disciples? Lin Xian said coldly. You don't have to threaten me. If he dares to cause trouble for me, I'll kill him too. With that, he waved his hand, and the black nine darkness flame gushed out, burning the corpse on the ground. However, he kept the storage ring and the purple pill cauldron. The cauldron was able to resist his sword qi, so it must be of a high grade. As a powerful inner disciple, Fang Li must have many treasures in his storage ring. On the other hand, Zhou Hai and the others were stunned. They didn't expect Lin Xian to really kill Fang Li. They couldn't believe that Fang Li had been killed. Brother Lin, you! Zhou Hai and the others rushed over. They were dumbfounded when they saw the scene on the ground. Lin Xian shook his head. I had no choice. If I didn't kill him, I don't know when he would kill me. Don't worry, the sect won't be able to find out. As he said, as long as you don't say anything, no one will know that I did it. They'll definitely think that the 10,000 Poison sect did it. Don't worry, Brother Lin, we won't say anything. Zhou Hai and the others swore. But you have to be careful of Senior Brother Lu Chao. After all, he's a core disciple. If he finds out about this, we'll be in trouble. Core disciples have the power to kill. They don't have to go through the sect to kill inner disciples. Zhou Hai said worriedly. It's okay. A 4-star king is strong. I might not be able to defeat him, but I'm still able to protect myself. Lin Xian wasn't boasting. He had many tricks up his sleeve, which was far beyond what Zhou Hai and the others could imagine. Then, the group of people moved and left the place. Lin Xian and the others didn't continue with their mission. Instead, they returned to the sect. With their current strength, they couldn't fight against the 10,000 Poison sect. Lin Xian wasn't in the mood, so the group went back. However, Lin Xian's face darkened when he returned to Danzong. Chapter 1559. Lin Xian wasn't in the mood either, so the group went back. However, Lin Xian's face darkened when he returned to Danzong. He realized that half of his courtyard had been destroyed. This made him extremely angry. When the crowd saw that Lin Xian had returned, they began to point at him and discuss among themselves. In front of him, in the courtyard that Lin Xian had destroyed, there were 2 young men sitting. When they saw Lin Xian return, they opened their eyes. You're Lin Xian? The 2 of them stared at Lin Xian with hostility. That's right, it's me. You destroyed my courtyard? Lin Xian asked coldly. Humph, so what if we destroyed your courtyard? Do you dare to resist? The 2 of them sneered. How dare you offend young Master Fang? You're courting death. Kid, I didn't expect you to be so lucky to be back so soon. If you meet young Master Fang outside, you're dead meat. Don't worry, you didn't meet young Master Fang, but you met us. We'll teach him a lesson. Let him know that some people are not to be messed with. Kid, I advise you to kneel down and apologize, or you'll die a horrible death. You're the ones who should kneel down and apologize. How dare you destroy my courtyard? Lin Xian's voice was cold, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. How dare you threaten me? The 2 young men sneered. Kid, don't you know who you are? You're just a newbie who just entered the inner sect. How dare you be so arrogant? I'm young Master Fang's man, and young Master Fang is Senior Brother Lu's man. You've offended us, and you won't be able to stay in the inner sect for long. At this point, the 2 young men laughed arrogantly. The crowd was silent because they knew that they were right. That Lin Xian is dead meat. Yeah, he could have offended anyone, but he chose to offend Fang Li. He's too young and doesn't know any better. I think he'll understand after staying in the inner sect for a while. Hearing the voices around them, the two arrogant disciples became even more smug. Kid, did you hear that? You're hopeless. Kneel down and apologize to us. Maybe we'll let you go if we're in a good mood. Humph, you're courting death. Lin Xian didn't say anything. He was like a ghost, appeared in an instant in front of the two young men, raised his palm, and slapped them. P. Slap. Two crisp sounds rang out. Immediately, the two arrogant youths received two slaps on their faces. You! How dare you hit us? The two of them were stunned for a moment before they roared angrily. Normally, they would flaunt their prowess in the inner sanctum. When had anyone dared to bully them? But now, I was a newbie who was a new T-Lin T-Thate. They as for the surrounding inner disciples, their minds went blank upon seeing this, and they stood rooted to the ground with a blank expression. They couldn't believe what had just happened. However, Lin Xian merely sneered. He waved his palm and sent another slap forward. Slap! Slap! Crisp slaps were heard. Soon, the two arrogant young men's heads were swollen. Blood mixed with teeth, all fell out. The two arrogant young men's faces were swollen and bleeding profusely. Their eyes were full of anger, and they roared crazily. They wanted to dodge, but they couldn't. In the end, there was a look of horror in their eyes. They realized that although Lin Xian was only a one-star king, his strength was too terrifying and unfathomable. They couldn't afford to offend him. No, don't hit us. I was wrong. Brother, stop. Please spare us. The two arrogant young men knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. When the surrounding inner disciples saw this, their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. They couldn't believe that the two arrogant young men were kneeling before Lin Xian. God, I'm not dreaming, am I? Aren't they Fang Li's men? They're usually arrogant? Why are they scared this time? Who is that Lin Xian? How can he be so powerful? In an instant, everyone was talking about it. Only Zhou Hai and the others were relatively calm. This was because this was nothing. Even their boss, Fang Li, had been killed by Lin Xian. Of course, they wouldn't tell anyone about this. Lin Xian retracted his hand and wiped his fingers. Then, he said, You destroyed my courtyard. You should know what to do, right? Yes, yes, brother. We'll fix it for you now. The two of them moved quickly to fix Lin Xian's courtyard. This scene was too strange. More and more inner sect disciples came to watch. However, the two arrogant young men didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. Instead, they quickly lowered their heads and worked. Soon, the courtyard was fixed. Lin Xian didn't make things difficult for them and told them to get lost. After the two of them left, the surrounding inner sect disciples also left. However, from now on, no one would dare to offend Lin Xian. Lin Xian entered the courtyard. With a wave of his hand, a formation quickly formed and surrounded the courtyard. Then, he sat down cross-legged and took out Fang Li's storage ring. There were plenty of things inside. There were dozens of sub-divine crystals, many elixirs, and many spiritual herbs. Other than that, Lin Xian also found some cultivation techniques. Most of them were useless to him. However, he was interested in one of them called the fire manipulation art. As he became more familiar with the shaken world, Lin Xian realized that the sub-divine crystals were unusual even in this place. Therefore, Fang Li had dozens of sub-divine crystals, which was quite a lot. As for the ordinary disciples, most of them still used high-grade spirit stones. After putting away the sub-divine crystals, Lin Xian opened the fire manipulation art. This fire manipulation art was about an alchemist's control of fire. Lin Xian was inspired by some of the intricacies of the book. With a wave of his hand, the 9 underworlds flame rushed out and danced between his fingers. Then, he used the fire manipulation art. Immediately, the black flames moved and formed many demonic beasts. If one looked closely, they would find that the demonic beasts formed by Lin Xian's flames were more realistic. In fact, some details were exactly the same as the real demonic beasts. Their power had also increased by a lot. Lin Xian nodded and put the fire manipulation art aside. Lin Xian checked all the spiritual herbs and elixirs carefully. He put away all the useful things. As for the useless ones, he planned to find a place to sell them. He couldn't use the purple cauldron either. Otherwise, people would definitely suspect him. Next, Lin Xian didn't go out again. Instead, he went into seclusion to break through and become a 2-star king. After all, Fan Li had a core disciple, Lu Chao, behind him. If Lu Chao found out about this, he might attack him at any time. He had to be careful. Chapter 1560. If Lu Chao found out about this, he might attack him at any time. He had to be careful. Lu Chao was a 4-star king. With his current strength, he could not fight against him. Therefore, he had to increase his cultivation as soon as possible. Also, he had to break through to become a core disciple. Based on the current situation, only 4-star kings had a chance of becoming a core disciple. Lin Xian held the dozens of sub-divinity crystals in his hand and used the long-life incantation to absorb them quickly. Just like that, Lin Xian went into seclusion. The other inner disciples were still on the mission of hunting down the 10,000 poison sect. Among them, the most dazzling one was the small team led by the core disciple Lu Chao. Wherever they went, the 10,000 poison sect was immediately destroyed. No one was spared. Lu Chao was wearing a white robe. His face was cold and he exuded a powerful aura. He stood in the air like a fire god. With a wave of his hand, the red cauldron above his head shone brightly and formed a sea of fire that killed hundreds of 10,000 poison sect martial artists. Behind him, a few inner disciples clapped and cheered. Lu Chao was expressionless as he slowly landed on the ground. Then he frowned. How long has it been? Why isn't Fan Li back yet? It's been 2 days. Yeah, what's Fan Li doing? Has he returned to the sect? A few inner disciples were confused. Lu Chao looked at the contribution points in his hand and nodded. It's about time. I should be able to exchange for many things. Let's go back to the sect first. Then, they set off and returned to Danzong. However, when they returned, Lu Chao and the others realized that Fan Li had not returned. However, they did not care and went to exchange for treasures. However, after waiting for 3 days, they realized that Fan Li had not returned. Those people all started to frown. Even Lu Chao's expression had sunk. Under normal circumstances, Fan Li would not have dared to leave him for so many days without sending him a message. There was only one possibility for this to happen. Something had happened to Fan Li and he could not return. No matter what, as his subordinate, Fan Li was very capable. Moreover, he was talented and wanted to nurture him. Thus, Lu Chao became worried upon seeing that Chu Feng had yet to return. He asked in a low voice, "Who was Fan Li with the last time?" "It should be those inner sect disciples," someone said from the side. "Didn't Fan Li say that he had to deal with some personal matters the last time we worked together? After that, there was no news of him." "Have you searched outside?" Lu Chao asked again. "Yes, I've already searched the nearby forests and cities. In fact, we even searched the place where he left. However, we were unable to find any trace of him. It's like Fan Li has evaporated into thin air." Hearing this, Lu Chao's face darkened. The surrounding disciples were also extremely confused. "That's impossible. With Fan Li's strength, there shouldn't be any accidents. Even if I encounter people from the myriad poison sect, I should be able to escape even if I can't defeat them." The few of them conversed, but the more they thought about it, the more they felt that something was off. Did something really happen to Fan Li? Lu Chao's face was also gloomy. "I think it's very likely." Upon hearing these words, the surrounding inner disciples gasped in shock. Then their eyes widened. "How is that possible? Who could put Fan Li in such a predicament? Unless it's a 4-star king. But we've been on this mission for so many days, and we haven't seen a single 4-star king or myriad poison sect martial artist. It's useless to think so much. Who did he meet last?" Call those inner disciples over, Lu Chao said coldly. Yes, I'll call them over right now. An inner disciple quickly left. On the other side, Lin Xian had been in seclusion all this time, and he finally opened his eyes today. However, he sighed slightly because he hadn't broken through to the two-star King realm. After entering the King realm, the energy required to break through was extremely huge. Especially for him, he required even more energy than an ordinary person. This was actually very normal. The Dragon Sword Soul was extremely powerful, and its attack power was unparalleled. Thus, the energy it required was much greater than an ordinary martial artist's. Although Lin Xian had many natural treasures and the powerful absorption power of the longevity art, he still couldn't meet the requirements of the Dragon Sword Soul. It seemed like he had to go out and search for opportunities. Lin Xian stood up and prepared to go out. However, although he hadn't broken through to the two-star King realm, his current cultivation had reached the late stage of the one-star King realm. His strength was also much stronger than before. However, at this moment, Zhou Hai came over again. His expression was extremely solemn as he said to Lin Xian, Brother Lin, senior brother Lu Chao has sent people to look for us. Could it be that we've been exposed? Lin Xian's eyelids twitched when he heard this, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. However, he still took a deep breath and said in a low voice, We shouldn't have been exposed. If we were exposed, he wouldn't have sent people to look for us. Instead, he would have come directly. Perhaps he's just suspicious, or perhaps he doesn't know what happened and wants to ask us. Don't worry. Our cultivations are very low, and we're nothing in his eyes. He won't think that we can kill Fangli. We just have to calm down. Very quickly, Lin Xian, Zhou Hai, and the others were taken away. Lu Chao's gaze was like lightning as he looked at Lin Xian and the others. He asked coldly, Let me ask you, do you know where Fangli is? Fangli? We don't know. Hasn't he returned yet? Zhou Hai and the others played dumb. Why did he look for you that day? Lu Chao continued to ask. Nothing special. It was just a small misunderstanding. It's already been resolved. Zhou Hai continued to explain. A bunch of nonsense. Lu Chao was suddenly enraged, and his expression was unusually cold. Nothing special? I heard that Fangli has a grudge with this kid, and it's not a small one. Now you're telling me that there's nothing special? What else are you hiding from me? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. I'm a core disciple, and I have the power to kill you. Therefore, even if I kill you now, the sect won't say anything. Hearing this, Zhou Hai and the others turned pale, and Lin Xian's gaze was also cold. Lu Chao's overbearing attitude made him very uncomfortable. Under normal circumstances, he would have already made his move. However, he still had a mission in Danzong that he had yet to complete. Therefore, he couldn't fall out with them. At least, he couldn't let the higher-ups in Danzong notice him. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said in a low voice, Indeed, there was a misunderstanding between me and Fangli. Chapter 1561. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said, Indeed, there was some misunderstanding between me and Fangli. I was promoted to an inner disciple by an elder of the sect, taking his sister's spot. I didn't know about this before. Because of this, Fangli wanted to make trouble for me. But that day, he didn't do anything and left as if he had discovered something else. It should have something to do with the 10,000 Poisons sect. Lin Xian said half of the truth, but he pushed the blame to the 10,000 Poisons sect. Lu Chao didn't say anything. He stared coldly at Lin Xian, and at the same time, he released the pressure of a 4-star king. Feeling this pressure, Zhou Hai and the others turned pale, and their bodies trembled. Lin Xian snorted inwardly. This pressure didn't have any effect on him, but he still used the immortality incantation to squeeze out a few drops of sweat, making his face even paler. After all, he couldn't reveal too much of his strength. Lu Chao was like a demon, and his cold eyes were like sharp swords that could pierce through them. The atmosphere in the air was getting more and more tense. Suddenly, an inner disciple flew in quickly. With a panicked expression, he said, "Senior brother Lu Chao, something bad happened." "What happened? Is it news about Fong Li?" Lu Chao asked coldly. "No, it's about the 10,000 Poison Sect. The 10,000 Poison Sect came with a purpose. They built an ancient tomb in the Fengshan mountain range, and it's filled with killing intent. It's already attracted the attention of many sects and countries. Our Danzong is also very shocked. Many people are heading there now. Senior brother, should we go too? Ancient tomb? Let's go take a look." Lu Chao stood up without hesitation. After taking 2 steps, he turned back and stared at Lin Xian and the others. "You better be telling the truth. If I find out that you're lying, I'll kill you immediately." With that, he let out a cold harumph and led the other inner sect disciples up into the sky, disappearing into the void. Zhou Hai and the others were pale, and they sat on the ground with cold sweat. The situation just now really scared them to death. It was fortunate that they had news about the 10,000 Poisons Hall as a shield. Otherwise, they would have been in grave danger by now. Lin Xian's expression was also cold. He knew that this matter was very troublesome. From the looks of it, regardless of whether he was the culprit or not, they still wanted to kill him. Humph, what an overbearing fellow! However, it's still not certain who will kill who. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he coldly snorted. "Zhou Hai, you guys go back. I need to go out for a while." Lin Xian had always wanted to go out and look for opportunities. This time, the 10,000 Poisons sect had created an ancient tomb that piqued his interest. With the character of the 10,000 Poisons sect, there must be treasures inside. If he could get them, he might be able to become a 2-star king warrior. Once he became a 2-star king, Lu Chao and the others wouldn't be his match at all. At that time, it would be hard to say who would kill who. With a sway of his body, Lin Xian also disappeared in the air. This time, he didn't move together with the other inner disciples. Although they were quite strong, it would be difficult for them to explore such an ancient tomb. Of course, he didn't move alone. He was accompanied by the Crimson Dragon. Finally, there's treasure again. Ben Wang is so excited. The Crimson Dragon stretched his neck and howled like a hungry wolf. He had been holding back for too long these days. "Kid, let's go all out this time and see what good things are in that ancient tomb." The two of them flew in the air like lightning. After flying for about 10,000 miles, they finally found their target. In the distance, there was a black mountain range with soaring killing intent and rampant demonic chi. It was very terrifying, as if it had turned into hell. That aura made even the Crimson Dragon tremble. F***CK. What a dense, baleful aura! The Crimson Dragon was very suspicious, but then his eyes lit up. Lin Xian also checked carefully and reminded, "Be careful. This place is not like the Sky Martial Continent. There are experts everywhere. We must not enter a dangerous place." The two of them descended from the sky and hid their auras. They walked carefully. When they looked up, they could see many figures flashing on the mountain peak in the distance. Among them, there were not only people from the Danzong, but also the sects and countries nearby. They were all looking for the ancient tomb. The closer they got to Feng Mountain Range, the more the aura of death there was. On the ground, black liquid began to appear, and even the trees were rotting. The whole mountain range seemed to have turned into hell. This is Feng Mountain. Even if there is no ancient tomb, it is still a land of death. Zombies often appear here, so you must be careful. He Tu also reminded. There's such a thing? Lin Xian was surprised. He originally thought that the appearance of the mysterious ancient tomb had caused this change, but after hearing He Tu's words, he realized that was not the case. On the side, the Crimson Dragon also explained. He is right. Feng Mountain has been a dead mountain since ancient times. Who knows how many corpses have been buried here, and there is no lack of experts among them. Of course, if the situation is good, they will die and become skeletons. If the situation is bad, they will turn into zombies. Ordinary martial artists will turn into zombies at most, but those peerless experts will turn into zombies with intelligence. Those zombies can cultivate. They are very terrifying. Kid, if we meet those zombies, we can only run. The Crimson Dragon also had a lingering fear. It was obvious that he knew a lot about Feng Shan. With the two's reminder, Lin Xian naturally became more careful. However, it was useless. The closer he got to Feng Mountain, the more bones there were. Crack! Lin Xian crushed a few bones with each step. Finally, he startled a skeleton creature. Crack! Crack! Countless white bones crawled out from the ground, forming skeletons. These skeletons were of different shapes. Some were humanoid, while others were beast-like. At this moment, there were more than 10 skeletons, and they quickly pounced on Lin Xian. Lin Xian executed the dragon-capturing hand. His palms were like two true dragons, and they instantly sent the dozen or so white skeletons flying. However, this action of his caused an even greater commotion. More powerful skeletal creatures appeared. An angry roar came from below. Suddenly, the entire ground began to tremble. A crack that was almost 1,000 meters long formed, and then a huge figure appeared. It was also a skeleton's creature, but its body was as big as a small mountain. There were 2 balls of green flames on the huge skeletal bull head. Those were the flames of the soul. Obviously, the skeletal bull head in front of him was not one of the trash from before. It was a creature with intelligence. Chapter 1562. The skeletal bull held a giant black axe in its hand. It was as big as a door, and it was full of holes and corroded. However, its power was extraordinary. The giant black tiger axe was swung in the air. It turned into a black ray of light and blasted towards Lin Xian like a bolt of lightning. Lin Xian clenched his fist and punched out. The blood in his body roared like a dragon. Pun! He used his fist to meet the giant black axe head-on. When the two collided, a sonorous sound rang out, causing the void to tremble. Boulders rolled down from the surrounding mountains. With a single strike, Lin Xian was forced to take a step back, whereas the ox-head white bone was forced to take 3 steps back. Eh? So strong! Lin Xian was surprised. His punch was extremely terrifying. Even a 3-star king might not be able to take it. However, the skeletal creature was only pushed back 3 steps. He had to admit that it was too strong. As for the white bone bullhead, it roared furiously. Although its intelligence was not very high, it was still able to understand what was happening before its eyes. A human brat was actually able to force him back. This made him extremely furious. The next moment, the green flames in its eye sockets exploded. A layer of light appeared on its white body. The roar was like a wave, carrying a strange killing intent as it quickly enveloped Lin Xian. Roar! On the side, the Crimson Dragon roared as well. It immediately dispersed the skeletal creature's roar. At the same time, Lin Xian clenched his fist, and the 10,000 bee sting appeared in front of him. Then, he formed a seal with his fingers. A black ray of light quickly appeared and shot into the skeletal bull's eye sockets. Roar! The skeletal bull let out a miserable cry. The black axe in its hand slashed in all directions, causing the ground to sink. The green flames in its eye sockets jumped as if it was in pain. However, after a while, the green flames calmed down. As for the white bone ox head, it no longer went berserk. Instead, it stood before Lin Xian in a very respectful and docile manner. Lin Xian grabbed the 10,000 bee sting and put it away. Then, he nodded in satisfaction. His figure flickered as he arrived at the white bone bull's head and sat down cross-legged. On the other side, the Crimson Dragon also flew up. Let's go! Once the order was given, the white bone ox head took a huge step forward and rushed forward. Bang, bang, bang! It was as if a white ancient mountain was moving, causing the earth to tremble. Along the way, many skeletal creatures were alarmed, but when they saw the skeletal bull head, they all hid underground, not daring to come out. This saved him a lot of trouble. Lin Xian used his soul power to scan the surroundings. He avoided most of the martial artists in the sky and arrived at the nearest mountain range. There's a cave! The Crimson Dragon's eyes immediately locked on to the front. Shall we go in and take a look? He asked excitedly. All right. Lin Xian nodded. Then, the two of them turned into rainbows and flew toward the cave ahead. As soon as they entered the cave, Lin Xian felt a gloomy and cold aura surround him. The aura was very strange. It was like a gust of gloomy wind that caused his hair to stand on end. His figure flashed, and the red lotus armor appeared. After all these years, Lin Xian had gathered all the materials and refined the complete red lotus armor. The red lotus armor's might was even greater than the starry sky armor. At the very least, it could be used by King Realm martial artists. As soon as the red lotus armor appeared, Lin Xian immediately felt that the effect of the gloomy wind was greatly reduced. This made him heave a sigh of relief. On the other side, the Crimson Dragon roared as well. The dragon blood in his body surged and formed a defense to resist the gloomy wind. After the two of them got used to the environment in the cave, they started to size up the surroundings. The inside of the cave was different from the outside. The outside was a swamp with rotten flesh and bones, but the inside of the cave was much cleaner and had a hard rock floor. It was very dark inside, but it wasn't a problem for Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. With their eyesight, they were naturally able to see that there was a passageway ahead. From the looks of it, it was probably a cave abode. They hadn't expected that they would be so lucky as to find a cave abode at random. A wisp of joy appeared on Lin Xian's face. The Crimson Dragon was delighted as well. Even though it's not the main cave abode, it should be pretty good. Let's go down and take a look. The passageway was in the shape of a spiral and extended underground. Lin Xian and Enhong were bold as they walked down. The passageway was very deep and seemed to lead to hell. Gradually, they heard footsteps reverberating in the passageway. Is there someone here? The two of them were shocked. They restrained their auras and moved quickly. Then, they were stunned. There were indeed footsteps ahead, but they didn't belong to humans. They belonged to bones and zombies. The zombies and bones outside were mostly monsters, but in here, they were all humans. They wore worn-out armor and were expressionless. Their eyes were the color of dead ashes. They walked in the cave like patrolling soldiers. How strange! These zombies can absorb the surrounding aura of death. The Crimson Dragon was surprised. Then, he looked carefully and exclaimed, Kid, look at the inscriptions on their bodies. Lin Xian looked over as well, and a look of shock appeared on his face. Indeed, the Crimson Dragon was right. The zombies in front of them all had obscure inscriptions on their bodies. Fortunately, the two of them were experts in this field. Otherwise, they might not have noticed it. This is a formation inscribed on these zombies. It allows them to absorb the surrounding aura of death and keep them moving. What a clever trick. I wonder who set it up for them? Could it be the owner of this cave abode? I don't know. Let's go down and take a look, said Lin Xian. The aura of death around them became thicker and thicker, but Lin Xian was not afraid at all. He activated the Crimson Lotus armor and formed a red lotus around him to resist the aura of death around him. The dark red divine dragon also flew quickly, letting out a dragon's roar. His aura was like a furnace of heaven and earth. It was so powerful that the aura of death around him didn't dare to get close. The two of them were like lightning as they rushed forward with large strides. Bang! 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 Wherever they passed, the zombies and skeletons were smashed away. But gradually, more and more zombies appeared. Their bodies were even shining with a metallic light. Their auras were also much stronger than before. Boom! Suddenly, a black shadow appeared in front of them and rushed over. It was a tall zombie. Most of the clothes on its body had already rotted away. The exposed skin was cold and metallic. His movements were stiff and strange, but his speed was strange. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. What a powerful zombie! It has the aura of a king. Lin Xian was surprised. He found that the zombie had the aura of a one-star king. Buzz! The tall zombie was full of murderous intent. He seemed to have turned into a sharp sword and attacked quickly. Chapter 1563. 1. That tall zombie was covered in a murderous aura. His entire body seemed to have turned into a sharp sword as he charged forward. Boom! He stretched out his hand with a cold aura and grabbed at Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. Pun! Dang! Lin Xian punched out, hitting the zombie's palm. The Crimson Dragon also waved its dragon claw and slapped out quickly. Immediately, that tall zombie was sent flying. Although he was powerful and had reached the level of a one-star king, in front of Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon, he could not resist at all. However, to Lin Xian's surprise, this attack did not kill the zombie. Lin Xian's punch had hit the zombie's palm. Although it had pushed the zombie back, it did not seem to have suffered any substantial damage. The Crimson Dragon's dragon claw had only dented a part of the zombie's body. What kind of physique is this? It's so powerful! The Crimson Dragon was surprised. Even an ordinary 3-star king would not have been able to withstand this attack. However, the zombie's body did not split open. It was too strange. That tall zombie roared angrily. His body suddenly bounced up like a spring and charged forward again. His movements were very stiff, but his arms were like two demonic blades that slashed in all directions, even cutting the void apart. Pung pung pung! A low sound rang out. Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon were engaged in a fierce battle. To be honest, this zombie should have died hundreds of times by now. However, its physique was very special. It was like a rare divine weapon that was abnormally tough. In the end, Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon were annoyed. With a low roar, Lin Xian waved his hand. 9 underworld devil flames rushed out quickly, forming a ferocious beast that charged forward. Boom! Whoosh whoosh! The 9 underworld devil flames were very terrifying. Even the zombie could not withstand it. Its body began to melt, forming a puddle of molten iron. The puddle of molten iron quickly condensed into a fist-sized iron ball that flickered with cold light. It even emitted a wave of energy. What is this? You should be able to absorb it, right? Lin Xian waved his hand and grabbed the metal ball. No problem, it can be absorbed. This is the zombie's energy, said Hey Tuesday. That's good. Lin Xian was overjoyed. What he lacked the most now was energy. Holding the mysterious iron atom in one hand, Lin Xian used the longevity secret art to madly absorb the energy inside. At the same time, he and the Crimson Dragon set off again. Not long after, another change occurred ahead. It was a powerful zombie. It quickly pounced over, but it wasn't completely human. There was even a pair of black wings on his back. What is this? Lin Xian was surprised. He then said to the Crimson Dragon, Bruise along, I'll leave it to you. It's just a Batman. It's no big deal. The Crimson Dragon was very knowledgeable. It recognized the other party at a glance, so it waved its dragon claws and rushed over. Although the Batman's aura was stronger than the previous one, the battle ended quickly. The reason for that was because the dark red divine dragon had directly smeared the dragon's blood onto its dragon claw. With a single slap, it had smashed its opponent's head off. Puff! A pearl the size of a longan fell out of the other party's head. The Crimson Dragon grabbed it and swallowed it. Not bad, it tastes good. The Crimson Dragon grinned. Next, the two encountered many powerful zombies, but they were all killed by the two of them. The energy inside the zombies was also absorbed by them. Therefore, along the way, the aura of Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon increased rapidly. Finally, they arrived at the end of the cave. The cave was very wide, like a huge square. It was supported by countless stone pillars, and on top of the pillars, there were cryptic inscriptions carved on them. They flickered with a strange light. On the ground, there were also inscriptions, which were incomparably complicated. The source of these inscriptions all pointed forward. There was a black coffin, which was emitting a cold and gloomy aura. The coffin was very large, 5 meters long and 1 meter tall. At this moment, it was lying there quietly, like an ancient demonic mountain, making it difficult for people to breathe. Judging from its aura, it was definitely not an ordinary tomb. How is it? Is there anything special around it? What are these inscriptions for? Lin Xian asked. It was similar to a kind of inscription that gathered death chi for cultivation. It should have been set up by the person in the coffin when he was alive. Set it up when he was alive? Could it be that he still wanted to cultivate after he died? Lin Xian had a strange look on his face. Ghouls are very strange. I'm not too sure either, but let's open the coffin and take a look. Okay. The two of them discussed for a while, then carefully walked forward. The black coffin was very heavy. It was unknown what material it was made of. Its weight was heavier than 10 mountains. Lin Xian stretched out his hand, grabbed it, and lifted it up. Rumble, rumble, rumble. With a loud sound, the black coffin slowly opened. At the same time, Lin Xian was very careful, afraid that there would be an attack from inside. However, there was no danger. There was indeed a corpse inside. It was a middle-aged man, whose eyes were closed. He was 2 meters tall and wore luxurious clothes. Around him, there were dozens of gems, which were shining brightly. This is high-grade subdivine crystals! The Crimson Dragon exclaimed. It waved its dragon claws, quickly grabbed a few of them, and carefully examined them. Yes, they were indeed high-quality subdivine crystals. As a kind of energy crystal, subdivine crystals were naturally divided into different grades. The ones used by ordinary warriors were ordinary subdivine crystals. Above them, there were many subdivine crystals and supreme-grade subdivine crystals. Different grades had different amounts of energy contained in them. It was like the difference between low-grade, middle-grade, and high-grade spiritual stones. To be honest, Lin Xian had never seen a high-quality subdivine crystal before. It was also his first time seeing one. The subdivine crystals were like colored agates, shining brightly and emitting terrifying amounts of energy. What's this? Lin Xian turned his eyes and stared at the middle-aged man's hand. The middle-aged man put his palms together and placed them flat on his body. However, Lin Xian's soul power was strong. He naturally discovered that there was something else in the man's hand. Using dragon capturing hands, 2 real dragons rushed out and opened the man's hands. There was something similar to a jade pendant. It was half the size of a palm and was shining with mysterious light. Lin Xian waved his hand and immediately took the jade pendant in his hand. Finally, he looked at it carefully. What's this? He was very surprised. However, the Crimson Dragon glanced at it and exclaimed, Supreme-grade subdivine crystal! This is a supreme-grade subdivine crystal! Supreme-grade subdivine crystal? Lin Xian was also surprised. At this moment, the middle-aged man's corpse suddenly opened its eyes. Chapter 1564. There was a tinge of anger in his eyes and his calm face became ferocious. Not only that, but his body also started to change and red hair started to grow on his body. Oh no, the corpse is mutating! Seeing this, the Crimson Dragon's scalp went numb. With a wave of his dragon claws, he took away all the high-quality subdivine crystals. At the same time, he retreated rapidly. Lin Xian's body swayed as he retreated backward. He really couldn't figure out how the mysterious corpse that had been fine all this time had mutated. Could it be because of the subdivine crystals? However, there was no time for him to think about it. The corpse stood up and his eyes swept across the area like a rainbow. A black spatial crack appeared in the void. At this moment, his entire body was covered with red hair, and he looked extremely ferocious. He turned into a bolt of red lightning and charged at Lin Xian at high speed. Bang! He struck out with both palms and the force was earth-shattering. They landed heavily on Lin Xian and forced Lin Xian to retreat. So powerful! Lin Xian was shocked. He did not expect the mysterious demonic corpse to be so powerful. The palm strike was so terrifying that his blood was boiling and he almost burst open. Fortunately, he had put up his defenses in advance and used the Red Lotus armor. Otherwise, he would have been more severely injured. Roar! Seeing that the palm strike did not kill Lin Xian, the mysterious demonic corpse roared angrily. The light in his eyes shone again, and he slashed at Lin Xian like two long knives. Lin Xian snorted and his body shone with light. It formed a sharp sword chi and slashed forward. Clang! 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 The terrifying sword chi hit the mysterious demonic corpse and made clanging sounds and sparks. However, it could not break the mysterious demonic corpse's body. At the same time, the mysterious demonic corpse had arrived in front of Lin Xian. His palms were like ghost claws that slapped down quickly. "You're courting death!" Lin Xian snorted. He formed a seal with his palms and pushed them out. Suddenly, a golden heavenly rock appeared in his palms and rushed out. It collided with the mysterious demonic corpse's claws. This time, the mysterious demonic corpse was finally forced back. It let out a furious roar, and the red hair on its body fluttered like red flames. It was incomparably strange. With a wave of his hand, he tore through the void and formed dozens of sharp lights that slashed toward Lin Xian. Humph! Lin Xian directly used the dragon sword domain to envelop the other party. Suddenly, green sword chi surrounded the entire space. It was like a rain of swords crazily slashing at the other party. The great dragon sword spirit roared within, emitting a dragon's roar. A terrifying aura permeated the heavens and the earth. For a moment, the entire void was boiling. Bang bang! The dragon sword domain was incomparably powerful. Even if the mysterious demonic corpse was powerful, it was still shaken to the point of continuously retreating. White scars appeared on his body. They were caused by the sword chi. There were even some places that had cracked open. However, not a single drop of blood flowed out. This situation was indeed extremely strange. Not only that, red hair began to grow out from the wounds, causing the wounds to rapidly heal. With a clap of his hands, it was like a demonic tablet that ruthlessly pressed down on Lin Xian. Lin Xian used the dragon sword domain. His body turned into a ray of light and instantly dodged. At the same time, the Crimson Dragon's attack also arrived. Countless dragon claws danced in the air, directly enveloping the mysterious demonic corpse. This attack caused a few more terrifying holes to appear on the mysterious demonic corpse's body. However, they were soon covered by the red hair again. Damn it! What the hell is this thing? Lin Xian's expression was ugly. He had never seen such a strange phenomenon. Because if it was an ordinary king, he would have been killed under such an attack. However, this red-haired zombie seemed to have an immortal body. It was impossible to kill him. Try attacking his head? He Tu suggested. Head! Hearing this, the Crimson Dragon spat out a sea of fire. It turned into a long rainbow and instantly slashed at the other party's head. However, the mysterious zombie dodged it. As expected, it's his head! The Crimson Dragon was overjoyed. This was because the other party didn't dodge its previous attacks and used its powerful physique to resist. But this time, it actually dodged. This meant that the other party was afraid. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian was also overjoyed. He took out the nine-held demonic sword and his entire body emitted a sharp aura. With a furious roar, his aura could swallow mountains and rivers. The nine-held demonic sword burst out with an incomparably terrifying light. The power was so strong that the entire void trembled. With a slash of the sword, a black sword she slashed down from the sky. It was incomparably terrifying. The void split open as it ruthlessly slashed at the mysterious zombie's head. 1. The mysterious zombie turned into a red afterimage and dodged back and forth in the cave, dodging the sword chi. However, this time, Lin Xian had already locked onto it. Roar! The red-haired zombie roared angrily, and a terrifying light burst out from its eyes. At the same time, the red hair on its body rapidly grew. It was like a red river that spiraled in front of its body, forming a powerful defense. Pun! A shocking sound rang out, and the red-haired zombie was sent flying. Not only that, the red hair on its body disappeared for the first time. Yes, that's right. It disappeared. Under Lin Xian's sword chi, it could not grow back at all. Seeing this scene, the red-haired zombie's eyes were filled with shock. It seemed that it did not expect someone to be able to injure it. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was grave. The other party's strength was too strong, and it seemed to have an indestructible body. It was impossible to kill it. Its strength was almost on par with a 4-star king. But fortunately, his great dragon sword soul was able to display its might at this moment, and it was able to destroy the red hair on its body. It seemed that killing the other party was only a matter of time. The red-haired zombie also felt the danger. It roared angrily and quickly waved its palms. Four terrifying palm shadows shot out and bombarded the surrounding stone pillars. 1-1. In the next moment, the stone pillars were like the pillars of gods and demons. The inscriptions on them flashed, and together with the inscriptions on the ground, they formed a strange formation. Not good. Damn that red-haired zombie! It actually knows how to make use of formations! The Crimson Dragon's expression changed. As a formation expert, he could naturally feel the terror of this formation. Even he could not break it in a short time. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was grave, and a bright light burst out from his eyes. The blood in his body began to boil. As the successor of the Great Dragon's Sword, he had inherited the Great Dragon's Sword's bravery and strength. He was not afraid of anything. At this moment, even though the red-haired zombie had activated the mysterious formation, it could not stop his shocking battle intent. The blood in his body surged like the roar of a dragon and the roar of a tiger. The Great Dragon Sword so roared, and the Dragon Sword domain beside him was completely activated. A green domain quickly formed, resisting the surrounding formation. At this moment, Lin Xian was extremely powerful. He held the 9 Darkness demonic sword in his hand, and it was as if the sword demon had been reborn. Kill! With a furious roar, the dragon sword domain trembled. Countless sword chi swept out in all directions, each of them like a mountain. These sword chi slashed out in all directions, causing a huge commotion. In an instant, the surrounding inscriptions were destroyed. Chapter 1565. Bang! The formation that had just been formed also shattered in an instant. All the strange scenes and terrifying auras disappeared. Only the green sword chi was left in the air. The red-haired zombie's expression changed drastically when he saw this scene. He couldn't imagine what kind of power could destroy his formation in an instant. One had to know that this formation was very strange and impossible to destroy. However, a human youth in front of him had actually destroyed it. Moreover, he had destroyed it so easily. He couldn't believe it. Although the red-haired zombie couldn't speak, he obviously had the intelligence of a human. His gaze was uncertain, and his heart was filled with shock. In fact, the sword Dao aura emitted by the other party caused his body to begin to tremble. However, he wouldn't sit still and wait for death. In the next moment, he roared angrily, and a bright light burst out from his eyes. Then, the red hair all over his body began to burn, forming balls of red flames that completely enveloped his body. Oh no, he's going to go all out. Be careful! The Crimson Dragon exclaimed. Sure enough, in the next moment, the red-haired zombie turned into a ray of light and instantly charged towards Lin Xian. Let's end this! Lin Xian shouted coldly, and raised his combat strength to the limit. Then, he waved the 9th Hell Demon sword and stabbed out. Azure Dragon Break! A wisp of black sword light instantly charged forward like a dragon. This move was very terrifying as it directly attacked the red-haired zombie's head. Instantly, the red-haired zombie's head exploded, and its entire body fell to the ground with a bang. There was no blood, but the surrounding cold aura had disappeared. Moreover, the red hair on the zombie's body also quickly disappeared, and finally drilled into its body and disappeared. In addition, a red crystal core fell out of the zombie's body. That was the source of the zombie's energy. Great! Lin Xian retracted his hand and held the red crystal core in his hand. He was extremely happy. The red-haired zombie's strength was close to that of a 4-star king. It was extremely powerful. If he could absorb all the energy inside, he believed that he should be able to break through to the 2-star king realm. Therefore, he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and held the supreme-grade subdivine crystal in one hand and the red crystal core in the other. He used the longevity art to quickly absorb the energy. On the other side, Dark Red Shenlong was cleaning up the battlefield, collecting all the valuable items in the cave. Then, he started to absorb those high-quality subdivinity crystals. At this moment, Lin Xian's secret art of longevity was circulating madly, displaying a powerful and mysterious power. The energy from the top-quality substandard divine crystal and the red crystal core was like a torrential river. It unceasingly poured into Lin Xian's body, cleansing his meridians. Boom! A low voice sounded, and then Lin Xian's aura suddenly soared. Originally, his cultivation base had already reached the late stage of 1-star king realm. Moreover, along the way, he had continuously killed zombies and absorbed their crystal cores. His cultivation base had also increased rapidly, and had already reached a critical point. Now, with the supreme-grade substandard divine crystal and the red crystal core, his cultivation had finally reached the 2-star king realm. So strong! Feeling the energy within his body, Lin Xian was overjoyed. After breaking through to the 2-star king realm, his strength had increased greatly. If he were to face the red-haired zombie now, he would probably be able to kill it in a few moves. Moreover, his current strength was still equivalent to a 4-star king. He was even confident that he could defeat core disciples like Lu Chao. It seemed like it was time to find an opportunity to become a core disciple. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He decided that when he returned to the sect, he would find Chu Yu and see if there was any way for him to become a core disciple as soon as possible. Only by becoming a core disciple would he be able to find out more about the Niwa of Gojoseon. On the other side, the Crimson Dragon had absorbed all the high-quality subdivinity crystals. His cultivation base had also recovered and increased by another level. Now, he had also reached the 2-star king realm. The dragon blood in his body was surging like a furnace of heaven and earth, emitting a rumbling sound. "Ha! I recovered some more!" The Crimson Dragon laughed. It wouldn't take long for Ben Wang to recover his full strength. Lin Xian also laughed and said, "Since there's nothing left here, let's go." Thus, the two turned around and flew outside. At the same time, outside the cave, several figures flew toward them at lightning speed. "Senior Brother Lu, we've received news that there seems to be a tomb here." "Yes, I've heard that there are many treasures inside. We spent a lot of money to get this information." A few voices sounded. It turned out that these people were Lu Chao and the others. They had also found this cave and flew over. Soon, Lu Chao and the others descended from the sky and were about to enter the cave. However, at this moment, two black figures flew out from the cave. Whoosh! "Who's there?" "Stand still!" Lu Chao waved his hand. Instantly, a terrifying palm image pressed downwards. He had come to the cave to look for treasures. How could he not be shocked when two figures flew out of the cave? He had to stop them and investigate. Indeed. Under the palm shadow, the two figures that came out of the cave stopped. "What? It's you!" Lu Chao and the others were stunned for a moment because they realized that they knew the people who came out of the cave. That's right, it was Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon who came out. Lin Xian was also stunned. He did not expect to meet Lu Chao and the others at the entrance of the cave. "How dare you! Who allowed you to go in? Presumptuous! Hand over all the treasures you've obtained inside. Otherwise, I'll make sure you crawl out today!" A few inner sect disciples beside Lu Chao shouted coldly. They did not take Lin Xian seriously at all because they were elite inner sect disciples and were very powerful. The other party was just a newcomer, and could not fight against them at all. Who do you think you are? How dare you have designs on me? Get lost while I'm in a good mood. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He had broken through to a 2-star king and was very imposing. Presumptuous! You're courting death! Those inner sect disciples were furious. They did not expect Lin Xian to dare to talk back to them. They really did not know what was good for them. Lu Chao also snorted coldly. Brat, I let you go earlier because of the urgency of the matter. I didn't expect you to be so arrogant in front of me. It seems like I can't let you live today. Humph, you're really arrogant. Do you think you can kill whoever you want? Lin Xian sneered. Let me tell you. I've obtained 2 supreme-grade subdivine crystals and countless treasures in this cave. Come and snatch them if you dare. What? Supreme-grade subdivine crystals? Hearing this, those inner sect disciples were shocked. Then, their eyes were filled with a fiery glow. Supreme-grade subdivine crystals were extremely powerful sources of energy. If they could obtain them, they would definitely be able to raise their cultivation level again. They might even be able to break through. Even Lu Chao's eyes were shining. Chapter 1566. He hadn't expected that Lin Fan would actually have such a fortuitous encounter and obtain 2 supreme-grade subdivine crystals. But soon after, he started laughing wildly. Kid, I have to say that you're really stupid. You actually dared to say that you obtained such a treasure? But very good, he's mine now. Hand over the supreme-grade subdivine crystals obediently, kneel at the side, and wait for my punishment. Hand it over? That's impossible, I've already absorbed it. Lin Xian shrugged. Don't even think about it. You won't be able to obtain a supreme-grade subdivine crystal in your lifetime. Get the hell out of here. What? You're courting death. Those inner court disciples went crazy, and their hearts ached. On the other hand, Lu Chao's face sank, and his eyes shone with a terrifying light. He stared fixedly at Lin Xian, and then he frowned. As expected, you've broken through to the 2-star king realm. What a piece of trash. 2 supreme-grade subdivine crystals only increased your cultivation by so little? Kid, you dare waste my supreme-grade subdivine crystals? I'll definitely kill you. You've just absorbed them, so there's probably still dense energy remaining in your blood. Even if I can't absorb the supreme-grade subdivine crystals, I'll still absorb the energy in your blood. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chao stretched out his palm, and it was like 5 sharp blades that swiftly slapped towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly and raised his fist to meet the attack. His terrifying fist was like an enormous mountain as it swiftly blasted out. At the same time, he sent a voice transmission. Ruzalong, I'll leave those inner court disciples to you. Don't let a single one of them go. Don't worry, it's a piece of cake. The Crimson Dragon grinned, and his body was like a red bolt of lightning that swiftly charged over. Bang! A shocking strike caused a huge explosion in space, and then 2 figures swiftly retreated. Lu Chao took 5 steps back and stabilized his body, but he was extremely shocked. His eyes were filled with astonishment, and he didn't dare accept the reality before his eyes. Lin Fan was a newcomer that had just entered the inner court, and was only a 2-star king, but he'd blocked his attack? This was something that he'd never imagined. Because in his opinion, the other party was merely an ant. He only needed to use a finger to crush the other party to death. Therefore, he had never taken the other party seriously. But now, not only had his opponent blocked his attack, he had even forced him to retreat. If he hadn't experienced it himself, he wouldn't have believed it even if he was beaten to death. It was simply impossible for a 2-star king to contend against a 4-star king. Behind him, the few inner sect disciples widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. Damn it, what's going on? How could he block senior brother Lu Chao's attack? Dream, I must be dreaming. They shook their heads in disbelief. However, at this moment, the Crimson Dragon flew over and waved its claws. Hee ants, you should worry about yourselves first. You're courting death. A four-horned snake dares to be arrogant in front of us? Catch him, peel his skin, cook him, and eat him. Several inner sect disciples were infuriated. They all used their unique skills to attack the Crimson Dragon. Bang! 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 There were a few more thunderous sounds. Then, several inner sect disciples spat out blood and were sent flying. Their eyes were filled with shock. They couldn't believe that a four-horned snake could send all of them flying so easily. What's going on? Are these two people humans or ghosts? How could they have such powerful strength? Seeing the inner sect disciples spitting out blood, Lu Chao's face turned even uglier. He gritted his teeth and said, Good. Kid, I underestimated you. But do you think you can be arrogant just because you blocked one of my attacks? Let me tell you, you're too naive. I'll let you know how powerful I really am. Now, it seems like Fang Li was killed by you too. Lin Xian snorted. So what? Not only am I going to kill him, but I'm going to kill you too. Kill me? You're dreaming. Go to hell. Lu Chao roared. His face was ferocious, and a cold murderous aura shot into the air. Boundless flames surrounded him, making him look like the god of fire. He waved his hand, and a red cauldron appeared in the air. There were two lifelike fire dragons circling around it. With a wave of his hand, boundless flames gathered and formed a fire dragon that roared incomparably. A terrifying heat wave covered the sky as if the entire sky had turned into a sea of fire. The fire dragon roared and charged toward Lin Xian. The entire void was left with boundless magma as if it had been cut open. Lin Xian was in the dragon sword's spiritual domain, and it was empty. He emitted a sharp aura like a peerless god of war. Whoosh! He turned into a sword light and dodged the fire dragon's attack. At the same time, he clenched his hand and summoned a small black cauldron. 10,000 bee sting! It was a true earth-grade weapon. In the past, Lin Xian's cultivation was too low to unleash its true power. Now that he was a two-star king, he had the strength to unleash 10,000 bee sting. The palm shadows kept slapping, and the 10,000 bee sting trembled and emitted a black light. One after another, rare beasts swam on it. Woo-woo! Roar! It was as if 10,000 beasts were roaring at the same time, emitting a terrifying aura. In a trance, there were countless demonic beast phantoms circling around. With a flick of his finger, a black light condensed and formed a large hand of death that slapped forward. Bang! With a shocking blow, the large black palm covered the sky and directly slapped the fire dragon, breaking it. Boom boom! Flames splattered everywhere, and the void was dyed red. What? It's broken! On the opposite side, Lu Chao's pupils constricted. If it was a coincidence that Lin Xian pushed him back the first time, this time, it was definitely not a coincidence that the other party broke his attack again. This time, he even used his own weapon. It could be said that he was going all out. However, the other party was still able to block it. Damn it, how is this possible? How can this kid have such powerful combat strength? Lu Chao roared and instantly activated his king's domain. Immediately, a fiery red domain shrouded him. The terrifying domain distorted the entire void as if it had become a real sea of fire. Kill! Lu Chao roared and charged toward Lin Xian quickly with the Red King's domain. Soon, he collided with the large black palm. Immediately, the black palm shattered into pieces, unable to resist. Humph, kid, so what if your weapon is powerful? In terms of domains, you are no match for me at all. At this moment, Lu Chao was very confident. He was a 4-star king, and his domain was already very terrifying. It was definitely not something that a 2-star king could contend against. He had already seen that the other party was able to break his attack earlier because of the small black cauldron. Other than that, the other party would definitely not be able to break his attack. It's good to be confident, but stupid is not good. You clearly belong to the stupid category. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Is your domain very strong? Watch me break it. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.